Story 1. This story is titled, No One Wants You Here. My brother said, My parents nodded in agreement. I just picked my stuff and left. But 2 months later, they are begging me because they are losing the house. Hey everyone, before we jump into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed the channel is losing some traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It's quick, free, and it helps us keep bringing you awesome content. Your support means the world. Let's keep this channel growing together. Thanks so much. Now let's start the video. Okay, Reddit, this is going to be a wild ride. I've been wanting to share this story for a while now, but honestly, it still gets my blood boiling just thinking about it. But after what went down last week, I figure it's time to let it all out. Fair warning, this is going to be long as EF. First, let me set the stage. I'm 25 male, working as a diesel mechanic at one of the biggest shops in our city. Been doing this since I was 18, started as an apprentice and worked my way up. Not trying to flex, but I'm pretty damn good at what I do. Like, I'm the guy they call when the other mechanics can't figure shit out. Those big Cummins engines. I can tear them down and rebuild them with my eyes closed at this point. But see, this isn't the life my parents wanted for me. Mom, 52 female, and Dad, 54 male, had this whole plan where I'd go to college, get some cushy office job, and be their perfect success story. When I told them I was going to trade school instead of college, you'd think I told them I was becoming a professional dumpster diver or something. The disappointment was real. Then there's my younger brother Jake, 20 male. This kid, man, where do I even start? Picture the most stereotypical entitled Gen Z kid you can imagine. Then multiply that by 10. That's Jake. While I'm out there busting my ass in 95-degree heat, crawling under trucks, and coming home looking like I took a bath in motor oil, this dude's living his best life playing video games and finding himself. The real fun started when I turned 21. I was making decent money by then. Not Jeff Bezos money or anything, but solid enough to have my own place if I wanted. But my parents hit me with this whole family should stick together speech. Stupid me, I bought into it. That's when they dropped the bomb. I needed to start paying rent. $800 a month to be exact. Now, I'm not against paying rent. That's fair, right? I'm an adult, making money, should contribute to the household. But here's where it gets fucked up. Jake pays nothing. Zero. Zilch. Nada. Their excuse? He's still in school. Yeah. School, meaning taking 2 classes at community college that they're paying for, which he's probably gonna fail anyway because he spends more time on his PS5 than in class. Let me break down a typical day in our house because this shit is important for context. I'm up at 5:30 a.m. at the shop by 7, working my ass off all day, dealing with crazy deadlines, angry customers, and engines that weigh more than my brother's car. Meanwhile, Jake rolls out of bed whenever he feels like it, maybe goes to his one class of the day, if he's feeling ambitious, then parks his ass on the couch for his daily gaming marathon. Mom makes his breakfast, his lunch, his dinner, does his laundry, cleans his room, kid's living like he's got a personal butler service. Me? I'm lucky if there's any food left when I get home. Half the time, I'm grabbing drive-thru on my way back from work because Mom didn't know when I'd be home, so she didn't make extra. The double standards were so obvious it was almost funny. If Jake leaves dishes in the sink, no problem. If I leave a coffee mug out, you're being disrespectful to the household. Jake wants new gaming equipment? They'll have it ordered before he finishes asking. I need new tools for work. You know, my actual job. You make good money, you should pay for that yourself. But here's the real thing, and I didn't find this out until much later. They were using my rent money to pay the mortgage. Not like contributing to it, straight up using my $800 to make the whole damn payment. So basically, I was paying for the roof over all our heads while being treated like some unwanted house guest. I tried talking to them about it. Multiple times. Every conversation went the same way. Me. Don't you think it's unfair that I'm paying rent while Jake lives here free? Mom. He's focusing on his education. Me. He's barely passing his classes. Dad. Don't be jealous of your brother. When you were his age? Me. When I was his age, I was already working full-time. Mom. Everyone's path is different. Dad. If you don't like it, you can always move out. And round we'd go. It was like talking to a wall, except the wall was actively gaslighting me. The crazy thing is, I put up with this for years. Kept telling myself it was temporary, that eventually they'd see how messed up it was, that Jake would grow up and start contributing. Instead, it got worse. Way worse. And on the top of that, my parents had this really interesting way of defining rent. According to them, that $800 only covered my bedroom and basic utilities. Everything else? That was extra. Want to use the washing machine? That'll be $30 extra per month for water and electricity usage. Want to park in the driveway instead of on the street? $50 monthly parking fee. Need to store your work tools in the garage? Another $40 for storage. I wish I was making this shit up. Meanwhile, Jake's living like he's at a five-star resort. Kid has the master bedroom. Yeah, you read that right. They gave him the bigger room when he turned 18 because he needs space for his gaming setup. He's got his own bathroom, while I'm sharing one with my parents like I'm still in high school. And get this, he has a dedicated gaming room that used to be my dad's office. They literally moved all my dad's stuff to the dining room so Jake could have a proper streaming setup. One day, I'm doing an oil change on my truck in the driveway, because where else am I going to do basic maintenance? Jake comes out whining about how the noise is ruining his stream. My dad actually had the balls to tell me I needed to do my vehicle maintenance at the shop instead, on my day off. Using shop equipment I'm not supposed to use for personal vehicles, because it was disturbing precious Jake's Twitch stream that has like 12 followers. But the real kicker? The absolute cherry on top of this shit sundae? They started itemizing my food consumption. No joke. Mom would go grocery shopping, and suddenly there's a list on the fridge with Mike's portion, calculated down to the last fucking slice of bread. A gallon of milk? That's $4.50 on my tab. Used 3 eggs for breakfast? $1.50. Want some of the dinner Mom cooked? Better cough up your share of the ingredients. Jake, though? This kid's eating like a king. Mom's making him special trips to Whole Foods for his dietary preferences. Translation: he watched some YouTuber talk about organic food and decided he's now a health guru. He's got his own snack cabinet that's literally labeled Jake's Do Not Touch. Meanwhile, I bought myself a pack of protein bars and found half of them gone the next day. When I brought it up, Mom said, "You should hide your food better if you don't want to share with family." Share with family. The irony was so thick you could spread it on toast. The financial drain wasn't even the worst part. It was the constant psychological warfare. Every family dinner, the ones I was allowed to join if I paid my portion, turned into a highlight reel of Jake's achievements. Jake might start streaming full-time. Translation: he's dropping out of community college. Jake's got such a good eye for investments. He bought some sketchy crypto after watching a TikTok about it. Jake's really finding his passion. He spent $300 of their money on a course about becoming an influencer. Me? I could literally rebuild an entire semi-engine, save a trucking company thousands in repairs, and get a commendation from my boss. And the most I'd get is, "That's nice, honey. Jake, tell us more about your new YouTube channel." The worst part was watching my skills and hard work get completely dismissed while they celebrated Jake's every minor achievement. I won Mechanic of the Month 3 times in a row at my shop. Crickets. Jake got 100 followers on Twitch. Mom made him a fucking celebration dinner. One particular day really stands out. I just finished a massive job. We're talking 16-hour day, complex transmission rebuild on a $200,000 truck that needed to be back on the road ASAP. Customer was so happy with my work, they sent a thank you letter to my boss and gave me a $500 tip. I came home actually excited to share some good news for once. Walk in the door, and the house is in full celebration mode. Balloons, cake, the whole 9 yards. My first thought was maybe they'd finally noticed my hard work. Nope. Jake had just hit 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. Mom had invited his streaming friends over, ordered catering, with my rent money probably, and Dad even bought him a new microphone as a "congratulations on your success" gift. When I tried to share my news, Mom literally patted me on the head like a dog and said, "That's great, honey. Oh, could you transfer your rent early this month? We need to upgrade Jake's internet for better stream quality." I wish I could say this was the worst it got, but nah. This was just the warm-up. The real shit show happened about 3 months ago. For context, I'd just dropped about $8,000 on a new professional tool set. If you're not in the industry, that might sound insane, but any mechanic will tell you that good tools are your lifeblood. We're talking snap-on everything. Ratchets, sockets, diagnostic equipment, the works. Had to finance part of it, but it was worth it because these tools were literally my future. I kept most of my tools at the shop, but I had this one toolbox at home for side jobs and personal projects. Nothing crazy expensive, but still probably worth around $2,000. Had it organized perfectly. Every tool in its place, everything labeled. Yeah, I'm that guy. Even had some specialized diagnostic equipment I'd saved up for. This particular day, I'd pulled a double shift because we had a fleet of trucks that needed to be ready by morning. I'm talking 16 hours of nonstop work. My hands were shaking. I'd drunk enough coffee to kill a horse, and all I wanted was to shower and pass out. Pull up to the house around 11 p.m. and I see lights on in the garage. Weird, since my parents' cars were gone. But whatever, I'm too tired to care. I just want my bed. Walk into the garage and my fucking heart stops. My toolbox is on its side, tools everywhere. And there's Jake and his dipshit friends, clearly drunk, using my pro diagnostic scanner as a fucking doorstop for their beer pong setup. You know that moment in movies where everything goes quiet and the camera zooms in on the main character's face? That was me. I literally couldn't process what I was seeing at first. These drunk idiots had turned my garage into their personal party zone, and my tools, my livelihood, were their party props. Yo, Mike, Jake slurs, like this is totally normal. We needed space for the table. Hope you don't mind, bro. Mind? Mind? My $1,200 diagnostic scanner is holding open the garage door. My socket sets are scattered across the floor like fucking confetti. And my toolbox, my perfectly organized toolbox, looks like it got hit by a tornado. I lost it. Not like throwing punches lost it, though believe me, I wanted to. But that cold, deadly calm kind of anger, where your voice gets real quiet. What the fuck did you do? Jake, this absolute waste of DNA, just shrugs. Chill out, man, they're just tools. We'll put them back later. Just tools. I walk over to my scanner, and sure enough, the screen's cracked. That's $1,000 right there, minimum. Start checking my other tools. Sockets missing, ratchets damaged, precision instruments just gone. And these drunk idiots are still trying to play beer pong around me like nothing's wrong. That's when one of Jake's friends, some douchebag in a Supreme hoodie, stumbles and spills beer all over my electrical testing equipment. Probably another $500 down the drain. I grab Jake by his shirt. Not my proudest moment, but fuck it. Do you have any idea how much this stuff costs? He pushes my hand away, getting aggressive now. Get off me. Dad will buy you new ones if they're so precious. Stop being such a bitch about it. Dad will buy me new ones. Dad will buy me new ones. I start taking pictures of everything. The damage, the beer cans, the whole scene. Jake's starting to look nervous now. What are you doing? Documenting everything before I call the cops. That sobers him up real quick. You wouldn't dare. We're family. And that's when my parents walk in. Perfect timing, right? Mom takes one look at the scene and starts yelling at me for grabbing Jake. Dad's right behind her, already running his mouth about how I'm overreacting. They're just having some fun, Dad says, like I'm the asshole here. You can't expect them to not use the garage just because you keep your stuff in here. I show them the broken scanner. Mom's response? Well, maybe if you paid more rent, you could have a proper storage space for your things. That was it. That was the moment something in me just broke. Or maybe it finally got fixed. I don't know. I looked at them. Really looked at them. My mom fussing over Jake like he's the victim. Jake smirking behind them because he knows he's untouchable. You're right, I said, real quiet. I should get proper storage for my things. Went upstairs, grabbed my laptop, and started making calls. That night, after everyone went to bed, Jake passed out on the couch, of course. I sat in my room and did something I should have done years ago. I made a spreadsheet. Yeah, I know, super exciting, right? But trust me, this spreadsheet became my weapon of mass destruction. I documented everything. Every single penny I'd paid them over the past 4 years. $800 monthly rent equals $38,400. Utility fees equals $4,800. Parking fees equals $2,400. Storage fees equals $1,920. Food. Contributions equals roughly $7,200. Various household expenses they made me cover, $5,000 plus grand total, almost $60,000. $60,000. That's not even counting all the tools Jake and his friends destroyed. While I'm putting these numbers together, I get this text from Jake. Hey bro, sorry about the tools and stuff. Dad says he'll give you $200 to replace anything that broke. We good? $200. For thousands in damaged professional equipment. I didn't even respond. Instead, I started making calls. First to my buddy Chris, who works in real estate. Turned out he had a client with a garage apartment for rent. Then to my bank to check my savings. Thank God I'd been putting money aside despite my parents bleeding me dry. Finally, to my boss to ask about picking up some extra shifts. But here's where it gets interesting. Remember how I mentioned I'd been paying their mortgage without knowing it? Well, I did some digging. Turns out my $800 rent was exactly the amount of their monthly mortgage payment. Not close to it. Exactly it. They hadn't been contributing a single penny to the mortgage in 4 years. So I came up with a plan. A beautiful, karma-filled plan. First step, I signed the lease on that garage apartment. It was small, but it had a secure space for my tools, and no entitled little brothers using my stuff as party decorations. Put down the deposit that same night. Second step, I started moving my stuff out quietly. Not everything at once. I'm not an amateur. Just a few things each day when nobody was home. The important stuff went first. What was left of my tools, important documents, irreplaceable items. Nobody noticed because, well, nobody ever paid attention to my stuff anyway. Third step, I documented the tool damage meticulously. Took photos, videos, got written statements from two of Jake's friends who were actually decent enough to feel bad about what happened. Made copies of everything and stored them in 3 different places. This would come in handy later. Trust me. Fourth step, I went to the bank and opened a new account at a completely different bank. Started redirecting my paychecks there, canceled all the automatic payments to my parents' accounts. But the master stroke? I waited. See, I knew exactly when their mortgage was due, the first of every month, and I knew they hadn't saved a penny because why would they? They had their reliable cash cow living upstairs. The whole time I'm doing this, life went on as normal. I kept going to work, kept nodding along at dinner when they praised Jake's latest business idea. He was now convinced he could become a cryptocurrency millionaire. Kept acting like everything was fine. Mom did try to talk to me about the tool incident once. She came to my room with that fake concerned look she'd perfected over the years. Honey, I know you're upset about your tools, but Jake feels really bad about it. Maybe if you hadn't left them in the garage. I just nodded and said, "You're right, Mom. I should find a better place to keep my things." She looked so relieved, probably thought I was finally understanding their side of things. Little did she know I was already 3 steps into my exit strategy. The best part? Jake kept making it easier for me to justify what I was about to do. Every day there was some new BS. He borrowed my car without asking, came back with an empty tank. He had his friends over again. He even had the balls to ask me to co-sign for a loan so he could invest in his streaming career. Meanwhile, I'm watching my parents enable everything. Dad bought him a new gaming chair because his back was hurting from streaming too long. Mom was now doing his laundry and folding it and putting it away because he was too busy with content creation. All while I'm still getting bills for my share of utilities and being told I need to contribute more to the household. But here's the thing about people who think they're untouchable. They never see the fall coming. And boy, was this going to be a long fall. I had my move-out date circled on my calendar, July 31st. Why that date? Because their mortgage was due the next day. And August was about to become a very, very interesting month for my dear family, July 31st. I'd taken the day off work, first time in months, and made sure to wake up early, like 5 a.m. early. Why? Because I wanted to be gone before they could try to stop me or guilt trip me into staying. I'd seen enough Reddit stories to know how these things usually go down. My new place was already set up. I'd been secretly moving stuff over for weeks. All that was left was my bed, my work clothes, and a few boxes of random stuff. I'd rented a small U-Haul the night before and parked it around the corner where they couldn't see it. The best part? I'd scheduled my move for the exact day I knew would hurt them the most. See, their mortgage was due on the 1st, and I knew for a fact they didn't have the money. How? Because I'd accidentally seen my mom's online banking screen when she was asking me to loan her money for Jake's new streaming microphone last week. Their account had less than $1,000 in it. The plan was simple. Get my stuff out, leave my key, and ghost them until the inevitable meltdown. But you know what they say about best laid plans. I'm quietly carrying out my last box when Jake stumbles out of his room. My brother, ladies and gentlemen, finally awake before noon, only because he'd been up all night streaming. He looks at me, looks at the box, and his hungover brain takes a full minute to process what he's seeing. "The fuck are you doing?" I just kept walking. Didn't even look at him. That's when he noticed my nearly empty room through the open door. "Mom! Dad! Mike's trying to leave. Here we go." I heard the thundering footsteps as my parents rushed upstairs. My dad, still in his bathrobe, face getting red already. Mom right behind him, already starting with the waterworks. What is the meaning of this? Dad's using his authority voice, the same one that used to scare me when I was a kid. Not anymore. I set down my box calmly. "I'm moving out." "Like hell you are. You can't just leave. What about your responsibilities to this family?" I pulled out my phone, opened my spreadsheet. "You mean these responsibilities?" Started reading out the numbers. Every payment, every fee, every dollar they'd squeezed out of me while letting Jake live like a prince. Mom's face went from fake tears to real panic as the numbers kept going. "That's $60,000 over 4 years, I finished. "Oh, and here's the best part. I know that's been going to the mortgage that's due tomorrow. Dad's face went from red to white so fast I thought he might pass out. Mom grabbed the wall for support. Jake just stood there, mouth open like a fish. You can't do this to us, Mom whispered. Actually, I can. And I am. But wait, there's more. I pulled out a manila envelope. This is all the documentation of the tools Jake and his friends destroyed. About $3,500 worth of professional equipment. I'll be filing a small claims court case next week unless I'm reimbursed in full. Jake started sputtering. But you're my brother. You can't sue me. Watch me. Dad tried to step in front of the door. You're not leaving until we sort this out. I'm 6 feet 2 inches and work with heavy machinery all day. Dad's 5'10" and hasn't seen a gym since the 90s. I just looked at him until he moved. The rent you've been charging me? That's more than my new place costs. The utility fees? Bullshit made up to fund Jake's lifestyle. The storage fees for my tools? Look how well that turned out. I picked up my box again. I've got all the documentation, all the payments, all the texts where you demanded money, every receipt, every bank statement. If you try to cause problems, it all goes to a lawyer. Mom was full on crying now. Please, the mortgage. We don't have. Not my problem anymore. Maybe Jake can start paying rent. Oh, wait. That would require him to actually have a job. Jake lunged at me. I sidestepped and he crashed into the wall. Real tough guy when he's not surrounded by his drinking buddies. By the way, I added, heading down the stairs, I've already changed my direct deposit information at work and closed our joint account. Good luck with the mortgage tomorrow. I heard Mom collapse onto the floor, sobbing. Dad was yelling something about family duty and responsibilities. Jake was still threatening me, but now, from a safe distance. I loaded my last box, got in the U-Haul, and drove to my new place. Total silence from them for about 6 hours. Then the texts started. Oh boy, did they start. Let me paint you a picture of how that first day went down. Hour by hour, I watched their messages evolve from anger to panic to straight-up desperation. It was like watching the 5 stages of grief, except nobody died, just their financial stability. First wave came from Dad. All righteous anger. 8:15 a.m. Get back here right now. 8:20 a.m. You're making a huge mistake. 8:45 a.m. No son of mine acts this way. 9 a.m. Answer your phone. Jake showing his usual maturity. 12:15 p.m. Dead when I find a. 12:20 p.m. Hoper happy breaking up the family. I didn't respond to any of them. Just kept screenshots of everything for my records. But around 3 p.m. that's when reality started hitting them. The mortgage payment was due the next day, and they finally checked their bank account. Even Jake started realizing things were serious. 7 p.m. Come on, man, don't do this. 7:30 m. I'll pay you back for the tools. 8 p.m. Mom and Dad are freaking out. 8:30 p.m. This isn't funny anymore. I spent that evening in my new apartment, enjoying the peace and quiet, watching their messages roll in while eating takeout on my couch that nobody else had the right to use. The next day, August 1st, was when shit really hit the fan. See, not only did they miss the mortgage payment, but that was just the beginning. Remember all those subscriptions and services they'd been paying for with my rent money? Jake's premium internet for streaming, his gaming subscriptions, Mom's fancy gym membership, Dad's golf club dues, their Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, and whatever else, all of it started bouncing. Their cards got declined everywhere. Jake's Twitch stream went down mid-game because they couldn't pay the internet bill. You should have seen his chat explode. All 15 viewers very confused. Then the real panic set in. Mom called me crying about how the mortgage company was sending notices. Dad left voicemails about fixing this as a family. Jake's messages got increasingly desperate as his streaming setup started falling apart piece by piece. But here's the best part. They started turning on each other. Through my cousin, the only family member I still talk to, I heard about the epic fights. Dad blaming Mom for not saving money. Mom blaming Dad for spoiling Jake. Jake blaming them for not having a backup plan. Everyone blaming me for being selfish. The cherry on top? Jake had to get a real job. Like an actual job at the local Walmart. Day one, he had to help carry groceries to cars in the summer heat. Posted on his Instagram about how hard manual labor is. I nearly pulled a muscle trying not to comment, "Welcome to the real world." By the end of the first week, they'd tried everything. Dad came to my workplace, security escorted him out. Mom tried to guilt my boss into giving her my new address. He laughed and said no. Jake's friends messaged me offering to pay for the tools. Too little, too late. They even sent our old pastor to talk some sense into me. But the real karma? That was just getting started. Because what they didn't know was that missing one mortgage payment was about to trigger a domino effect that would change their lives forever. Their comfortable little world where Jake was king and I was the ATM? That was about to come crashing down hard. See, my parents had been living way beyond their means for years, using my rent money to maintain their lifestyle and fund Jake's dreams of internet stardom. Without my monthly $800, their entire budget went up in flames. First, the mortgage company started calling, then the credit card companies, then the utilities. Turns out they'd been paying everything on a razor-thin margin, and one missed payment was all it took to send everything tumbling down. But let me break down how it all played out, because each family member's reaction was priceless. Let's start with Jake. My precious brother's journey from future Twitch star to reality was a thing of beauty. Week 1 at Walmart, he got written up for being on his phone during shifts. Week 2, he had a meltdown because a customer disrespected him by asking him to help load groceries in the rain. By week 3, he was begging his streaming followers for donations. He made $2.47. The internet getting cut off was the final nail in his influencer career coffin. His last stream was him literally crying about how unfair life is while the video quality kept dropping until it finally went black. His 12 viewers were very supportive though. They spammed F in the chat. Mom's breakdown was more gradual. First, she had to cancel her fancy gym membership, then her weekly hair appointments, then her essential spa treatments. She tried getting a job for the first time in 15 years. Turns out, professional enabler isn't an in-demand skill on LinkedIn. She ended up working at the same Walmart as Jake. Different shift. The irony of them both wearing those blue vests after years of looking down on retail workers? Chef's kiss. Dad's ego took the biggest hit. He'd always played the role of successful provider, even though I was the one actually providing. When he had to sell his golf clubs to make a partial mortgage payment, something in him just broke. His country club buddies stopped inviting him to their weekly games. Turns out friendship only goes as far as your wallet in those circles. Last week, they finally had to put the house up for sale. They're moving into a 2-bedroom apartment next month, all 3 of them. Jake's furious because he has to share a room with Dad. Mom's devastated because the apartment doesn't have a proper entertaining space for her book club that she can't afford to buy books for anyway. The real cherry on top? I got promoted at work. Lead mechanic position, significant pay raise, company truck. When word got back to them, they tried reaching out again with a business proposition. Apparently, they wanted to invest in my success by moving in with me so we could pool our resources as a family. I replied with a screenshot of their mortgage statements showing how they'd exploited me for years and told them to lose my number. So here I am, sitting in my paid-for apartment, all my bills up to date, my tools safely stored in my own garage, watching my family learn some very expensive lessons about consequences. Jake's still at Walmart, now in a 3-month competition with Mom for Employee of the Month. Neither has won yet. Dad's delivering pizzas at night, and I'm getting ready to take a 2-week vacation with the money I've saved since stopping my family contributions. Life's funny sometimes. For years, they treated me like an ATM, a servant, a backup plan. Now they're learning the hard way that you can't treat people like garbage and expect them to keep funding your lifestyle. To everyone who followed this saga, thanks for the support. Edit. Since people are asking about the tools, yes, I did file in small claims court. Hearings next month. I have all the documentation, photos, and even statements from Jake's friends. Should be interesting. Edit 2. Holy shit. This really blew up. Thanks for all the awards. And no, I won't help them get back on their feet. They can walk on their own for once. Final update? Just heard from my cousin. They're having a family meeting to discuss pooling resources to survive in the apartment. Apparently, they're expecting Jake to contribute 1/3 of the rent. The same Jake who called in sick to Walmart 3 times last week because streaming is his real job. Good luck with that. Story 2. This story is titled, Fiancé Took a Break, Vanished for Weeks. Met her ex, now wants to resume our wedding plans. I'm ready to walk away. Hey everyone. Before we jump into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed the channel is losing some traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It's quick, free, and it helps us keep bringing you awesome content. Your support means the world. Let's keep this channel growing together. Thanks so much. Now let's start the video. Hey everyone. I'm not the kind of guy who usually posts stuff like this, but things have been so weird lately that I need to get it off my chest. Maybe someone out there has been through something similar and can give me some advice, or at least tell me I'm not crazy. So, here's the deal. My fiancé, Lily, 27 female, and I, 29 male, have been together for 3 years. She's smart, funny, and has this way of making you feel like you're the only person in the room. I proposed last year, and we started planning a summer wedding. Everything was going great. At least I thought it was. One day, Lily tells me she's going to her hometown to spend time with her sister. Now Lily's really close with her family, and she hadn't been back in a while, so it didn't seem weird. She packed a bag, gave me a kiss, and told me she'd be back in a couple of weeks. At first, I didn't think much of it. We still texted here and there, and she called me the first night to let me know she got there safely. The next day, though, things started to feel off. She called me in the afternoon. She was like, "Hey, I need to talk to you about something." I went, "Sure, what's up?" That's when she drops this. "I think I need some time to think." I was trying to process, so I asked, "Think about what? Is this about the wedding? Are you feeling stressed? Did I do something?" She doesn't really answer, just says, "I feel like I need some time for myself." I didn't want to push too hard, so I said, "Okay, if you need space, I get it. Just let me know what's going on." She promises we'll talk soon, but the whole thing feels off. The conversation ended on a weird note. I sat there like, what the hell just happened? After that, communication pretty much stopped. I texted her a few times, just normal stuff like, "Hey, how's it going?" Or, "Hope you're having a good day." But she never replied. I tried calling her, but she didn't pick up. She even stopped posting on social media, which was odd because she's usually the type to share everything from her morning coffee to random sunset pics. I reached out to her sister thinking maybe she could shed some light on what was going on. Her sister texted back a short, "Haven't seen her much, sorry," which didn't help at all. It felt like everyone was shutting me out. At this point, I started losing sleep over it. My friends tried to calm me down, saying, "She's probably just taking a breather." But that didn't sit right with me. This wasn't like her. She'd never been the type to just go radio silent, especially not on me. The weirdest part was how sudden it all felt. We were literally in the middle of choosing flower arrangements a week before she left. There were no big arguments, no signs of anything wrong. I kept replaying every conversation we'd had, trying to figure out if I'd missed something. But everything seemed fine, until it wasn't. I tried giving her the benefit of the doubt. Maybe she really did need some time alone. Maybe she was going through something she didn't know how to talk about yet. But as days turned into weeks, my patience wore thin. If something was wrong, why couldn't she just tell me? That's when I started questioning everything. Was she really staying with her sister? What if there was something or someone else going on? I hated thinking like that, but the lack of answers was driving me nuts. I spent so many nights staring at my phone, hoping for a text or a missed call that never came. Every day that passed felt heavier than the last. I tried distracting myself with work, friends, but nothing worked. I felt like my whole world was stuck on pause. After a couple of weeks of silence from Lily, I decided enough was enough. I mean, how much space does one person need? If she wasn't going to tell me what was going on, I was going to find out myself. I packed an overnight bag, fueled up my car, and made the drive to her hometown. It wasn't a quick trip, but I had plenty of time to mentally prepare for whatever awkward or uncomfortable conversation was waiting for me. I kept telling myself, maybe she's just stressed. Maybe it's not that bad. But deep down, I had this sinking feeling that things were about to get weird. When I pulled up to her parents' house, where I assumed she was staying, my heart was racing. I knocked on the door, and for a second, I thought no one was home. Then Lily opened it. The look on her face said it all. She was not expecting me. She stood there for a moment, staring at me like I was a pop quiz she hadn't studied for. Finally, she stepped aside and let me in, mumbling something about how she didn't think I'd come. We sat down in the living room, and everything felt off. It wasn't like the usual comfort I felt with Lily, where we could just sink into the couch and talk about anything. She started with small talk. "How was your drive? Did you hit any traffic? Want something to drink?" Like she was trying too hard to sound normal. I played along at first, answering her questions with short, clipped responses, but my patience was wearing thin. I didn't come all this way to discuss the highway condition. There was this long, awkward pause where neither of us spoke. She blanked out, and when she finally glanced up, I asked, "Lily, what's going on? Why haven't you been answering my calls or texts?" Her reaction was immediate. "I've been trying to figure some things out," she said finally, her voice soft, almost too quiet to hear. "Figure what out?" I was trying to keep quiet. She hesitated. She wasn't sure how to say what she needed to. The silence stretched on, and I could feel my heartbeat getting louder in my ears. Then she finally said it. "I ran into my ex when I got here. It felt like the floor had just shifted beneath me." I stared at her, trying to process what she'd just said. "And?" I asked, my voice as steady as I could manage, though I already felt the storm brewing inside me. "It wasn't planned," she said. "I saw him at the grocery store, and we ended up talking." Talking. That word hit me like a slap. It wasn't the fact that she'd seen her ex. That could happen to anyone. It was the way she said it, like it was no big deal. But it clearly was a big deal, or we wouldn't be having this conversation. I leaned forward, trying to keep my composure. Why didn't you tell me about this earlier? I asked. Her eyes darted to the side, avoiding mine. I didn't want to upset you until I knew how I felt. How you felt? I repeated, my voice rising just a bit. We're engaged, Lily. We're planning a wedding. What do you mean, how you felt? That's when she said, I've been spending some time with him, she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. I needed to see if there were any unresolved feelings. For a moment, I couldn't even speak. My mind was spinning, trying to wrap itself around what she just said. Unresolved feelings? We're supposed to be getting married, and you're out here playing emotional hopscotch with your ex? I just needed to know for sure, she said. I didn't want to go into our marriage with any doubts. I felt my chest tighten, my hands clenching into fists. So you've been ignoring me this whole time because of him? I couldn't stay quiet. Why didn't you tell me sooner? Why didn't you talk to me about this instead of shutting me out? She started to respond, but I wasn't done. What does this mean for us, Lily? Are you still trying to figure it out? Because I'm not going to sit around waiting for you to decide if I'm plan A or plan B. Her face crumpled, and for a split second, I thought she might cry. But instead, she said, I didn't want to hurt you. I needed time to sort my emotions. Do you even hear yourself right now? I shot back. Leaving me in the dark for weeks was a hell of a lot worse than just being honest from the start. The conversation went in circles after that. Every time I tried to get a straight answer, she dodged it, giving me vague excuses about needing clarity and not wanting to make a mistake. I could feel my energy draining with every passing minute. By the end of it, I was done. Completely, utterly done. I stood up, looked at her one last time, and said, I need some time to think. Exactly like what she said, and the way she said it. Her eyes widened like she didn't expect me to say that, but I didn't wait for a response. I grabbed my keys and walked out. The drive back home after that conversation was one of the longest and most surreal trips of my life. I wasn't angry, at least not in the yelling and breaking stuff kind of way, but I was hurt, really hurt. I kept replaying everything Lily said, trying to make sense of it. Unresolved feelings? What did that even mean? Why couldn't she just talk to me about it, instead of shutting me out and ghosting me for weeks? The next few days were a blur. I went to work, but I wasn't really there, you know? My coworkers asked if I was okay, and I gave the usual, yeah, just tired, excuse. My friends checked in too, but I didn't have the energy to explain the whole mess. Eventually, I told a couple of close friends what happened. Their reactions were a mix of shock and outrage. My buddy Mark said, Dude, that's messed up. She should have told you the second this guy showed up. My other friend Jenna was more blunt. If she's entertaining her ex while engaged to you, she doesn't deserve you. Hearing it from other people made me realize just how bad the situation was. But it also made me feel like an idiot. How did I not see this coming? Were there signs I missed? The thing that hurt the most was how blindsided I felt. We'd been planning our future together, choosing wedding venues, talking about where we wanted to live, even discussing names for future kids. And now all of that felt like a lie. I started going through our text messages, looking for anything that might explain her behavior. Nothing stood out. Our conversations had been normal, happy even, right up until she left for her hometown. It was like she flipped a switch the moment she saw her effing ex. One night, I decided to message her sister. I wasn't trying to drag her into the middle of things, but I needed some clarity. Her response was short and vague. I think Lily's just going through some stuff. She'll figure it out. Figure it out? What was there to figure out? We were supposed to be a team, and now I was completely in the dark. A week later, I got a text from Lily. It wasn't an apology or an explanation, just a casual, hey, how are you? Like everything was fine. I didn't respond. I couldn't. What was I supposed to say? Oh, hey, I'm great. Thanks for ignoring me while you hung out with your ex. The silence between us grew louder. Every day that passed, I felt more distant from her, more certain that whatever we had was crumbling. I started questioning if I even wanted to salvage it. Could I forgive her? Could I trust her again? At the same time, I felt stuck. We'd built a life together, or at least we were supposed to. Breaking up wasn't just about ending a relationship. It meant unraveling everything we'd planned and starting over from scratch. The thought of that was terrifying, but the alternative was pretending everything was okay when it clearly wasn't, and that wasn't an option. I started thinking about what I wanted, what I deserved. I realized I couldn't stay with someone who didn't respect me enough to be honest. I couldn't marry someone who thought it was okay to put me on hold while they figured out their feelings for someone else. By the end of that week, I made up my mind. If Lily wanted to work things out, she'd have to do a hell of a lot more than send me a half-assed text. And even then, I wasn't sure I'd be able to look at her the same way again. I didn't reach out to her, and she didn't follow up after that text. The silence felt like an unspoken agreement that we were done. And honestly, as much as it hurt, it also felt like a relief. So I was starting to get used to the silence. It wasn't fun, but at least it gave me some time to think. I'd made peace with the fact that Lily wasn't coming back, and honestly, I was slowly moving on. I wasn't rushing into anything or trying to distract myself. I was just trying to rebuild some sense of normalcy. Then, like clockwork, she came back. It was a Saturday afternoon. I was halfway through rewatching a series I didn't even like that much, just something to keep my mind busy. There was a knock at the door, and I figured it was a delivery or maybe Mark coming over to drag me out of the house. But nope, it was Lily. She was standing there like nothing had happened, smiling like she was bringing cookies to a neighbor. "Hey," she said casually, like she hadn't ghosted me for weeks. I just stood there, trying to figure out if I was hallucinating. Hey," I finally said, stepping aside so she could come in. She walked in like she owned the place, commenting on how clean everything was. She sat down on the couch, patted the cushion next to her, and said, "We need to talk." I was bracing for some kind of heartfelt apology, an explanation, something. But instead, she started talking about our wedding plans. "Our venue is still holding our date," she said, like we'd been in constant communication this whole time. "And I was thinking we should go with lavender for the table settings. It's timeless, don't you think?" I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I cut her off mid-sentence and said, "Lily, what are you doing here?" She blinked, confused, like I just asked her why the sky was blue. "I'm here to fix things," she said, matter-of-factly. I stared at her for a second, then laughed, sharp and cold, the kind of laugh that says, "Are you kidding me right now?" "Fix things?" I repeated, leaning forward. "You mean the relationship you hit pause on while you sorted out your feelings for your ex? That relationship?" Her face went pale for a moment. "That's over. I realized I don't have feelings for him anymore. It's you I want to be with." I stood up, pacing a little because sitting still felt impossible. "And you expect me to just believe that? To what? Take you back with open arms like none of this happened? Do you even hear how insane that sounds?" She blinked, clearly not expecting the anger in my voice. "I needed time. I didn't want to hurt you. You didn't want to hurt me. Lily, you ghosted me for weeks. You didn't think to tell me anything, not one damn thing, until I had to drive to your hometown to find out. And now you're standing here, acting like it's no big deal? It's not like that," she shot back. I was confused. I didn't know what I was feeling, and I didn't want to make things worse. Make things worse? I cut her off again, throwing my hands up. "You made things worse by disappearing on me. You left me hanging, wondering what the hell happened while you were off rekindling whatever with your ex. Do you even realize what that did to me?" She opened her mouth to respond, but I didn't give her the chance. "No, you don't," I said firmly, "because if you did, you wouldn't be here right now, expecting me to just forget everything and pick up where we left off." She looked more hurt now, but I wasn't backing down. Not this time. "I made a mistake," she said quietly, trying to play the victim. "I know I messed up, but I'm here now, and I want to make this right. I'll do whatever it takes." "Whatever it takes," I repeated, laughing bitterly. "You say that like it's supposed to mean something. But the truth is, Lily, I don't trust you anymore. How am I supposed to believe you won't pull this again the next time you get confused or need to sort out your emotions?" She looked down at her hands, fiddling with her engagement ring. My ring. I felt a flash of anger seeing it still on her finger, like she had any right to wear it after everything. "Take it off," I said abruptly. She looked up, startled. "What?" "The ring," I said, pointing to her hand. "Take it off. You don't get to keep it. Not after this." Her eyes widened, and for a moment, she looked like she might argue. But then, slowly, she slid the ring off her finger and placed it on the table between us. She stood there for a moment, looking at me like she was expecting me to change my mind, to say something that would make everything okay. But I didn't. I just stared back, my face set, my decision final. "Is this really it?" she asked. "You're just done?" "Yes," I said, my voice steady. "I'm done. I'm not an option, Lily. You don't get to hit pause on me while you figure out your feelings and then come back when it's convenient for you. That's not love. That's selfishness." Her lips trembled like she wanted to say something, but she didn't. Instead, she turned and walked toward the door. That night, I sat on the couch staring at the ring on the table. It felt surreal, like the last few weeks had been some twisted dream I couldn't wake up from. But as I sat there, one thing became crystal clear. I made the right decision. I wasn't going to let myself be someone's second choice, their backup plan when things didn't work out with someone else. I deserved better than that, and I was finally ready to stand up for myself. Lily was gone, and honestly, I was okay with that. And that is how things unfolded until now. If anything pops up worth posting, I'll keep you guys updated. Update 1. Hey y'all, thank you for your comments. It means a lot. I came to give you an update since things shifted in an unexpected way. So here goes. Alright, so after Lily's surprise visit, I was in this weird limbo. I wasn't ready to forgive her, but I also didn't have the energy to confront her again. It was like I was stuck in emotional quicksand. I didn't know what to do, so I did what any guy would do. I avoided the situation altogether and kept to myself. Then, out of nowhere, I get a text from Mia, one of Lily's friends. Now, Mia and I were always friendly, but we'd never really talked one-on-one. Her text said something like, "Hey, just checking in. I heard about the break and wanted to see how you're holding up." At first, I wasn't sure how to respond. Was this some kind of setup? But after staring at the message for an embarrassing amount of time, I decided to just reply with, "Hey, thanks for reaching out. I'm doing okay, I guess." Mia was surprisingly easy to talk to. She said she'd been in a similar situation before and knew how much it sucked. We ended up texting back and forth for a while, and honestly, it was nice to have someone to vent to. She wasn't pushy or judgmental, just a good listener. A couple of days later, Mia texted me again. This time, she suggested we meet up for coffee. I wasn't really in the mood to go out, but she was persistent. "Come on, it'll be good for you to get out of the house," she said. And before I knew it, I found myself agreeing. When we met up, it felt normal. Not romantic, not flirty, just two people talking. She asked about work, hobbies, even my old college stories. For the first time in weeks, I felt like someone actually cared about me. Not about the drama or the wedding or any of that, just me. But then she hit me with, you deserve someone who appreciates you, someone who doesn't take you for granted." I didn't know how to respond to that, so I just said, "Yeah, I guess." The thing is, I wasn't interested in Mia like that. She was nice and all, but I was still dealing with the mess Lily left behind. I wasn't ready to jump into anything, and I didn't want to give her the wrong idea. But Mia didn't let up. She started texting me more often, sending memes, asking if I wanted to hang out again. She wasn't overbearing, but it was clear she was trying to make something happen. I kept my responses polite but distant, hoping she'd get the hint. Then one evening, Mia asked if I wanted to grab dinner. I tried to politely decline, but she wouldn't take no for an answer. "It's just dinner," she said. "Don't overthink it." So I went. And let me tell you, it was awkward. She dressed up like it was a date, while I showed up in a hoodie and jeans. The conversation was fine, but there was this underlying tension I couldn't ignore. It was like she was testing the waters, seeing how far she could push things. When I got home, I told myself that was it. No more hanging out with Mia, at least not one-on-one. I didn't want to lead her on, and I definitely didn't want to make things more complicated than they already were. But then somehow, Lily found out. I don't know if Mia told her, if one of their mutual friends couldn't keep their mouth shut, or if Lily just has some sixth sense for sticking her nose where it doesn't belong. Either way, the next day, there she was, banging on my door like the place was on fire. Then Lily showed up at my door. No text, no warning, just pounding on the door like it was an emergency. I opened it, and there she was, all fired up and ready to go. "What the hell are you doing?" she demanded, storming past me into the living room. I shut the door, already over it. "Nice to see you too, Lily. What do you want?" She spun around, glaring. "You've been hanging out with Mia? My friend?" I crossed my arms, keeping my tone calm but firm. "I'm sorry, but what exactly makes you think you get to ask me about anything I'm doing? What makes me think, are you kidding me? She's my friend. This is humiliating." I let out a short laugh, shaking my head. "Humiliating? Lily, we're done. You don't get to show up here and play the victim. You made your choice when you walked away. So whatever I do now isn't your business." Her face twisted like she couldn't believe what she was hearing. "So that's it? You're just moving on?" I shrugged. "What did you think was going to happen? That I just sit here waiting for you to decide if I'm good enough? I came back because I realized I still love you," she shouted. "Too late," I said bluntly. "Honestly, Lily, maybe you should go back to your ex. Seems like you're good at circling back to old options." Her face turned red in an instant, her jaw tightening like she was trying to hold herself together. "Are you serious right now?" she hissed. "Yeah, I'm serious," I shot back. "You clearly didn't think twice about running to him before. Why stop now? Might as well make it easier for everyone." She practically exploded. "You don't get to stand there and act like you're better than me. If you think I'm just going to let this slide, you're wrong." I told her, "Let what slide? That I'm over it? That I'm over you? Not my problem anymore, Lily." She glared at me. "You'll regret this," she said, her tone sharp enough to cut glass. "Don't think I won't make you regret this." I just opened the door wide and gestured to it. "Go ahead, Lily. Make whatever threats you want, but you're not my problem anymore." She stared at me for a moment, then stormed out. I locked the door behind her, shook my head, and finally let out a breath. Whatever her next move was, I don't care. I'm done. And that isn't going to change. Final update. All right, guys, I came with a final update just to let you know how everything is unfolding. So, after Lily stormed out, the silence felt different this time. Not heavy, not tense, just peaceful. For the first time, I didn't feel like I had to justify myself to her or anyone else. It was over, and I was fine with that. A couple of days later, Mia texted me, asking if I wanted to grab lunch. I hesitated. Mia had been a good listener when everything with Lily fell apart, but I was starting to feel like she might see this as more than it was. I didn't want to send mixed signals or make things messy. Still, I figured one lunch wouldn't hurt, especially if I used it as an opportunity to set things straight. When we met up, the vibe was casual. We talked about random stuff, but there was this underlying energy that made me uncomfortable. She'd laugh a little too hard at my jokes, lean in a little too close, and give me that look, like she was waiting for me to make a move. About halfway through, I decided it was time to rip the Band-Aid off. Mia, look, I really appreciate you being there for me lately. It's been a lot and I'm grateful, but I want to be clear. I'm not looking for anything beyond friendship. Her face fell for a second, but she quickly recovered. Oh, yeah, of course, she said, waving it off like it was no big deal. I didn't mean to make it weird. I smiled, relieved she took it well. Thanks. I just didn't want there to be any confusion. After lunch, we parted ways, and I thought that was that. But as I walked back to my car, something caught my eye. It was Lily. She was standing half a block away, leaning against a streetlight, pretending to scroll on her phone. I'd know her posture anywhere. She wasn't just randomly there, she was watching. I froze for a second, debating whether to say something. But what was the point? She'd deny it, and it would just escalate into another argument. Instead, I got into my car and drove off, pretending I hadn't seen her. Over the next week, I started noticing her more often. She wasn't obvious about it, but she wasn't exactly subtle either. Her car would be parked down the street from my place when I came home from work, or I'd catch glimpses of her at the grocery store, ducking into another aisle when she thought I noticed. It was bizarre. She wasn't reaching out or making a scene, just lingering, like she was waiting for me to do something. One evening, I went out to grab takeout. As I was pulling into the restaurant parking lot, I saw her car again, parked just far enough away to not seem suspicious, if I didn't already know better. I didn't confront her. I just went inside, got my food, and left. But when I got home and saw her car parked down the street, I'd had enough. I didn't go to her, though. Instead, I walked straight into my house, locked the door, and pulled out my phone. I texted her, Lily, I've noticed you around. Stop following me. This isn't healthy, and it's not going to change anything. No reply. I didn't expect one, honestly, but the next day, her car was gone. The days after that felt calmer, like the ghost of her presence had finally left. I didn't see her, didn't hear from her, and for once it felt like she was truly out of my life. Mia texted me a couple more times, but I kept it friendly and distant. I wasn't about to let another situation spiral. Right now, I needed to focus on myself, on putting all the chaos behind me. Lily might still be out there, watching or waiting, but I wasn't going to let her control even a second more of my life. I was done. And this time, it was for good. And if there's one thing I know for sure, it's this. I deserve better. That's it, folks. Thanks for sticking with me through all of this. If you've got any advice, I'm all ears. Otherwise, I'll just be over here, figuring out how to start fresh. Cheers. Story 3. This story is titled, My Fiancé Demanded I Gift Her Parents a Share of My Business Before Our Wedding. When I refused, she threatened to leave me. So I did this, and now she is begging. Hey everyone! Before we jump into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed the channel is losing some traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It's quick, free, and it helps us keep bringing you awesome content. Your support means the world. Let's keep this channel growing together. Thanks so much. Now let's start the video. I'm 33 male, and honestly, I'm proud of what I've accomplished. My tech consulting firm isn't Google or Amazon, but it's mine. I started it with no outside help, no rich relatives, no magical investments, just me, my laptop, and way too many sleepless nights. I sacrificed a lot to make it work, skipped vacations, ate ramen for dinner when I couldn't afford takeout, and kissed any kind of work-life balance goodbye. So yeah, I'm pretty attached to what I've built. About a year ago, I met Jenna, 29 female. At first, she seemed like the perfect match. She was ambitious, confident, and had this magnetic energy that drew people in. She knew how to dress, talk, and charm a room in ways that I'll admit I could never pull off. We started dating, and things were great for a while. I thought I'd finally found someone who understood my hustle. Fast forward a year, and we were engaged. The proposal was nothing flashy, just us, a nice dinner, and a quiet moment where I asked her to marry me. She said yes, and for a while I thought I was on cloud nine. Planning the wedding wasn't exactly my thing, but Jenna took the reins like a pro. Venues, dresses, catering, she had it all under control, and I was just happy to go along with it. Or at least, I thought I was. One night, about 3 months before the big day, we were sitting at the kitchen table. Jenna had her laptop open, scrolling through Pinterest boards of flower arrangements or something. I was half paying attention, sipping my coffee and pretending to care about the difference between peonies and roses. Then, out of nowhere, she hit me with it. "Babe," she said, in that tone that meant she wanted something. "We need to talk about my parents." I raised an eyebrow. "Okay, what about them?" She smiled, all sweet and casual. "Don't you think we should do something special to thank them for everything they've done for us?" I blinked. "Didn't we just take them on that weekend trip to Napa? And I bought your dad that expensive watch he wanted. What else are you thinking?" She set her laptop down and leaned across the table like she was about to share a brilliant idea. "I was thinking, maybe you could give them a stake in your business." For a second, I thought I'd misheard her. "Wait, what?" "A small stake," she clarified, as if that made it any better. "Just as a gesture of gratitude. They've always wanted to be part of something successful, and this would mean so much to them." I stared at her, trying to process the sheer audacity of what she'd just said. "You want me to give your parents a share of my company? As a gift?" "Yes," she said, smiling like this was a totally normal thing to ask. "It's a sign of trust and respect. They've done so much for me. This would show that you appreciate them too." I couldn't believe it. I actually laughed, thinking she had to be joking. "Jenna, I built this company from nothing. Your parents had no part in it. Why would I give them a share?" Her smile faltered, and she gave me this look like I was being unreasonable. "Because they're family. My family is going to be your family soon. This isn't just about business. It's about building connections and showing that you value them." I put down my coffee, suddenly wide awake. "Jenna, I don't think you understand how businesses work. Giving someone a stake in my company isn't a casual thing. It's not like handing out party favors. This is my livelihood." She sighed, like I was the one being difficult. "You're overthinking it. It's just a symbolic gesture. They're not going to take over or anything." I rubbed my temples, trying to stay calm. "Jenna, this isn't symbolic. It's legal. Your parents didn't help me build this company, and they didn't invest in it. Why would I hand them part of it?" Her tone shifted then, becoming sharper. "Because they're my parents, Aaron. Without them, I wouldn't even be here. Don't you think they deserve something in return?" I couldn't believe what I was hearing. They deserve respect, sure, but respect doesn't mean giving away something I've worked my AOB off for. The conversation ended there, for the night at least. But as I lay in bed later, staring at the ceiling, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of something bigger. Jenna's request wasn't just weird, it was entitled. And the fact that she thought it was reasonable, that was a massive red flag. Looking back, I should have seen it coming. Jenna had always been a little extravagant. She grew up in a family where money wasn't exactly tight, and she had this habit of expecting the best without questioning where it came from. I'd always thought it was harmless, but now it felt like she was treating my business, my life's work, as some kind of bargaining chip. The day after Jenna's little suggestion, I woke up hoping she'd slept it off. Maybe she'd had a momentary lapse in judgment. People say dumb things when they're caught up in emotions, right? I figured she'd realize how absurd the idea was, and we'd move on. I couldn't have been more wrong. That morning, I made us coffee like usual, and for a minute, everything felt normal. She kissed me on the cheek, thanked me for the coffee, and started scrolling on her phone while I read emails on my laptop. I actually thought, maybe I overreacted. Maybe she'll let it go. But then, like clockwork, she brought it up again. "Babe," she said, putting down her phone, "I was thinking more about what we talked about last night." My stomach dropped. What we talked about last night could only mean one thing. "Jenna," I started, already exhausted, "we don't need to rehash this. I thought we were done with that conversation." She gave me this practiced smile, the kind she usually saved for convincing me to go to overpriced brunch spots. "I just think you're not seeing the bigger picture here. This isn't about the money or control. It's about showing my parents that you value them as much as I do." I closed my laptop, realizing I wasn't getting out of this conversation. "Jenna, I respect your parents. I really do. But giving them a stake in my company isn't a bigger picture. It's a legal and financial nightmare." I leaned back in my chair, trying to stay calm. Once someone owns a stake in a business, it's theirs. It doesn't matter if they're involved or not. And no offense, but your parents don't know the first thing about running a tech company. She waved her hand dismissively. They don't need to know. It's not about running anything. It's about them feeling appreciated. I stared at her, trying to figure out if she was serious. She was, dead serious. The rest of the day, the conversation replayed in my head. I couldn't focus on work because I kept thinking, is this what the rest of my life is going to be like? Constant guilt trips over unreasonable demands? That night, it got worse. We were sitting on the couch watching TV. Suddenly, she turned to me and said, "You know, if my parents had a stake in the company, it could really benefit you too." I hit pause on the show. "What are you talking about now?" "They're really well connected," she said, flipping her hair like she was pitching me a business deal. "My dad knows tons of people in real estate, and my mom's in a few women's entrepreneur groups. They could help bring in more clients." I rubbed my temples. "Jenna, my business doesn't need your parents' help. I've been growing it just fine without them." "But think about the potential," she said, her voice getting more excited. "With their connections, you could scale faster. This isn't just for them. It's for us. For our future." And there it was. She'd shifted tactics. The demand wasn't just about pleasing her parents anymore. Now it was about our future. "Jenna," I said slowly, "if this is about our future, then you should be supporting the business I've already built, not trying to hand pieces of it to your parents." She frowned, clearly not liking where this was going. "I am supporting you. I just think you're being short-sighted. My parents are excited about us getting married, and this would make them feel like they're part of something meaningful." It wasn't excitement. It was entitlement, plain and simple. But I didn't want to blow up at her. Not yet, anyway. "Look," I said, "I respect that your parents are important to you, but that's crossing a line." Her frown deepened, and for the first time, I saw something in her expression that made me uneasy. She wasn't just upset, she was calculating. The next day, things took a turn I didn't see coming. Jenna had apparently decided to recruit backup. Her mom called me while I was at work. "Hi, Aaron," her mom said in this overly cheerful voice that immediately put me on edge. "I just wanted to thank you for being so thoughtful about including us in the business. Jenna mentioned your idea, and we're so touched." I nearly dropped my phone. Excuse me?" "Don't be modest," she said with a laugh. "Jenna told us you're thinking about giving us a stake in your company as a wedding gift. It's such a generous gesture. You're truly part of the family already." I was so stunned I couldn't even speak for a second. Then I managed to stammer, "I think there's been a misunderstanding. I never agreed to anything like that." Her tone shifted instantly. "Oh, well, that's not what Jenna said." "Yeah, well, Jenna and I haven't exactly come to an agreement on this," I said firmly. "And frankly, I'm not comfortable with the idea." Her mom went silent for a moment, then said, "I see. Well, I hope you'll reconsider. This would mean a lot to us." I ended the call, my blood boiling. Jenna had gone behind my back and sold her parents on an idea I'd flat out refused. When I got home that night, I confronted her. "Why did your mom call me about the business?" Jenna didn't even look guilty. "I thought it would help if you understood how much this could mean to them. Sometimes people need a little encouragement." "A little encouragement?" I snapped. "You made it sound like I'd already agreed to this." She crossed her arms, her tone turning defensive. "You're making a big deal out of nothing. I was just trying to get everyone on the same page." "The same page?" I said, my voice rising. "Jenna, this isn't some group project. This is my business, my work, and you have no right to promise anything about it to anyone, especially not your parents." For the first time, I saw a flash of anger in her eyes. "If you can't do this one thing for me and my family, maybe you don't really care about us as much as you say you do." I stared at her, stunned. Was she seriously guilt-tripping me over this? "You know what, Jenna?" I said finally. "If this is how you're going to act, maybe we need to rethink a few things." I walked out of the room before she could respond, my mind racing. I didn't know where this was going, but one thing was clear. Jenna wasn't backing down, and neither was I. I thought Jenna's antics had reached their peak already, but I was wrong. That was just the warm-up act. What came next turned this whole situation from annoying to straight-up toxic. The next morning, I called my best friend Dave. If anyone could give me an honest take, it was him. When I explained the situation, he let out a long whistle. "Dude, this is bad! Like Run for the Hills bad." "Yeah, no kidding," I muttered. "Let me get this straight," he said. "She's basically threatening to end things unless you hand over part of your business to her parents?" "Pretty much," I said. "And she doesn't see why that's insane?" "Nope." Dave let out a laugh, the kind that's more disbelief than humor. "Man, I don't know what to tell you. This isn't normal. Like, at all. If she's this entitled now, imagine what she'll be like when you're married. You sure you want to go through with this?" That was the question, wasn't it? For the first time, I wasn't sure of the answer. That evening, Jenna hit me with the ultimatum. We were sitting in the living room, barely speaking, when she suddenly said, "So, have you made your decision?" "Decision about what?" I asked, even though I already knew. "The shares," she said bluntly. Are you going to do it or not? I looked her dead in the eye. No, Jenna, I'm not. She leaned back, crossing her arms. Then maybe this relationship isn't going to work. For a moment, I just stared at her, trying to figure out if she was bluffing, but her expression told me she wasn't. Maybe it's not, I said finally. Her eyes widened, like she hadn't expected me to call her out. You're seriously willing to throw everything away over this? I could ask you the same thing, I said. You're the one making unreasonable demands and threatening to walk away when you don't get your way. What kind of foundation is that for a marriage? She didn't answer. Instead, she stood up and walked out of the room. As I sat there in the silence, I realized something. This wasn't just a fight. This was a turning point, and no matter how it ended, things were never going to be the same. After Jenna's ultimatum, I spent the next day walking around in a fog. My mind was spinning. I couldn't concentrate on work, and I kept replaying our argument over and over again. I knew something had to change, but I wasn't sure what. Should I fight harder to make her understand? Try to compromise somehow? Or was this whole relationship doomed? Then I remembered my lawyer, Olivia. She wasn't just a legal expert. She was a friend who had been through some messy situations herself. If anyone could give me solid advice, it was her. I called Olivia and told her I needed to talk. She didn't even hesitate. Come by my office this afternoon, she said. We'll figure it out. When I walked into her office, Olivia greeted me with a grin and a coffee. All right, Aaron, what's got you so rattled? I sighed and sat down, spilling the whole story. I told her about Jenna's request, the guilt trips, the call from her mom, and finally, the ultimatum. Olivia's grin faded as I spoke, replaced by a look of pure disbelief. When I finished, she leaned back in her chair, crossing her arms. Wow, that's a lot. Tell me about it, I muttered. Let me get this straight, she said. Your fiancé is demanding you give her parents a stake in your company as a wedding gift? Yep. And she threatened to end the engagement if you don't? I nodded. Olivia let out a low whistle. Aaron, this is a massive red flag. Like, wave it in the air and run the other way red flag. I know, I said. But what am I supposed to do? I love her, but this feels like a line I can't cross. You're absolutely right, Olivia said firmly. You can't cross this line, not just for your sake, but for the future of your business. If you give away shares now, you're opening yourself up to a world of legal and financial complications. Like what? I asked, already dreading the answer. For starters, if you transfer shares to her parents, those shares legally belong to them. If anything goes wrong, say, they decide they want more involvement, or they sell their stake to someone else, you lose control over that portion of your business. And if you and Jenna get married, it gets even messier. Those shares could be considered marital property, which means they'd be up for grabs in a divorce. I felt a cold knot forming in my stomach. So you're saying this could screw me over in more ways than one? Exactly, Olivia said. And let's be real here. If Jenna is making these kinds of demands now, what's to stop her from making even bigger ones down the road? I sat there, staring at my coffee. Olivia was right. This wasn't just a one-time issue. It was a glimpse into a future I didn't want any part of. What do I do? I asked finally. Olivia leaned forward, her expression serious. You need to protect yourself. First, make sure your business is legally untouchable. Update your operating agreement to specify that no shares can be transferred without your explicit consent. And if you haven't already, separate your personal finances from your business accounts. Keep everything clean and untangled. Done, I said. I've always kept my business finances separate. Good, Olivia said. Now, about Jenna. You need to be crystal clear with her. No more maybe or we'll see. Tell her flat out that this isn't happening and that it's not up for discussion. If she can't accept that, well, she trailed off, but I knew what she was implying. Yeah, I said quietly. I might have to end it. Olivia nodded, her expression sympathetic. I know it's not easy, Aaron, but you need to think about what's best for you in the long run. A healthy relationship doesn't involve ultimatums and manipulation. That night, I went home feeling more resolved than I had in days. Olivia's words echoed in my head. A healthy relationship doesn't involve ultimatums. Jenna was sitting on the couch when I walked in, scrolling through her phone like nothing had happened. I set my bag down and stood in front of her. We need to talk, I said. She looked up, her expression guarded. About what? About the business. About your parents. About this whole situation. Jenna sighed dramatically, like she was already tired of the conversation. Aaron, we've been over this. I don't know why you're making such a scene out of it. Because it is a big deal, I said. And I need you to understand that this isn't going to happen. I'm not giving your parents a stake in my company, and that's final. Her eyes narrowed. So that's it? You've made up your mind and I just have to accept it? Yes, I said firmly. You do. Because this isn't about love or family or respect. This is about you and your parents trying to take something that doesn't belong to you. Jenna stood up, her face flushing with anger. How dare you? My parents have done nothing but support us, and this is how you repay them? By being selfish and greedy? Selfish and greedy? I repeated, my voice rising. Jenna, I've gone out of my way to make your parents feel included, but giving them a piece of my business? That's not inclusion. It's entitlement. She crossed her arms, glaring at me. Fine. If you're so determined to be selfish, maybe we shouldn't be getting married. The words hung in the air like a challenge, but I didn't take the bait. Instead, I looked her in the eye and said, that's what I've already decided. For a moment, Jenna just stared at me, stunned. She clearly hadn't expected me to stand my ground. The next morning, I called Olivia again and updated her on what had happened. You did the right thing, she said, but be prepared for more fallout. If Jenna's this entitled now, she's not going to back down without a fight. Olivia wasn't wrong. Over the next few days, Jenna made it her mission to convince me I was the bad guy. She accused me of being cold, unloving, and ungrateful. She even tried to get some of our mutual friends on her side, but thankfully, most of them saw through her nonsense. By the end of the week, I knew one thing for sure. This relationship wasn't salvageable. Jenna had shown me who she really was, and I couldn't not see it. By the time Jenna and I sat down to talk again, I was done playing nice. I'd gone through every emotion, confusion, frustration, disappointment, and I'd finally hit my breaking point. She thought I'd cave. She thought her guilt trips, manipulation, and threats would wear me down. But she underestimated one thing. I'm not the kind of guy who gives in to ultimatums. The evening started calmly enough. Jenna had been unusually quiet all day, which honestly made me suspicious. Normally, she'd be texting me nonstop, sending me links to overpriced wedding decor, or ranting about some minor inconvenience. But that day, radio silence. I figured she was gearing up for round 2 of Let's Make Aaron Give Up His Company. Sure enough, as soon as we finished dinner, she turned to me and said, So, have you thought any more about what we talked about? I put my fork down and looked her straight in the eye. Jenna, I don't need to think about it anymore. I've made my decision. The answer is no. It's not happening. Jenna crossed her arms, her expression hardening. You're acting like I asked for the entire company. It's just a small stake, a token of appreciation. You're making it into this huge, dramatic thing. Because it is a huge, dramatic thing, I shot back. Once I give up shares, I lose control over that part of my business. Your parents could sell their stake, meddle in decisions, or worse. And if we get married, those shares could end up tangled in a divorce settlement. This isn't just about appreciation. It's about protecting what I've worked my off to build. Her lips pressed into a thin line. If you're so worried about protecting your precious business, maybe you shouldn't be getting married at all. The room went silent. For a moment, we just stared at each other. The tension so thick you could cut it with a knife. You know what, Jenna? I said finally, my voice calm but firm. Maybe you're right. Maybe I shouldn't be getting married. To you. She glared at me, her chest rising and falling as she struggled to find something to say. Finally, she hissed, You'll regret this. My parents will think you're a greedy, ungrateful a-hole. And so will everyone else. I laughed bitterly. Go ahead and tell them. Hell, tell the whole world. I've got nothing to hide. But don't forget, I've got the receipts. Every text, every conversation, every little attempt to guilt trip me into this. You really want to play that game? Her face went pale, and for the first time, she looked genuinely rattled. You recorded me? I didn't plan to, I said. But after that stunt with your mom calling me, I figured I needed to protect myself. So yeah, I've got evidence. And if you try to spin this story, I won't hesitate to set the record straight. She opened her mouth to argue, but closed it again, clearly realizing she was backed into a corner. Without another word, she grabbed her purse and stormed out of the house. The next few days were chaotic. Jenna called me multiple times, alternating between angry rants and tearful pleas. At first, I ignored her, but eventually, I picked up one of her calls, figuring I might as well hear her out. Aaron, she said, her voice trembling. I'm sorry. I was under a lot of pressure from my parents. They've been pushing me to make sure our marriage is secure, and I guess I let that get to me. That's not an excuse, Jenna, I said bluntly. You didn't just let your parents pressure you. You tried to pressure me. You didn't care how it made me feel, and you didn't stop to think about the consequences. I know, she said, sniffling, but I didn't mean to hurt you. I love you. I just wanted to make my family happy. If you loved me, I said, my voice steady, you wouldn't have tried to manipulate me into doing something that goes against everything I've worked for. Love isn't about making someone sacrifice their dreams to appease your parents. She started crying again, but I didn't stick around to listen. I hung up and blocked her number. In the days that followed, Jenna tried every tactic she could think of. She called my parents, my friends, even a few of my business contacts, trying to paint me as the villain. The first wave of fallout came from Jenna's parents. Unsurprisingly, they weren't happy. I'd blocked Jenna on my phone, but her parents managed to get through. The first call came from her mom, who I swear should have been a politician with the way she could spin things. "Hi, Aaron," she started in this overly sweet tone. "I just wanted to touch base and clear up any misunderstandings. I'm sure Jenna didn't mean to upset you. I didn't even try to play along. There's no misunderstanding, Mrs. Carter. Jenna tried to pressure me into giving you and your husband a stake in my business, and when I said no, she threatened to end the engagement. That's pretty clear." There was a pause, and then she said, "Well, maybe she just didn't explain it properly. You know how passionate she can get. She only wanted to include us because we care so much about her future. And yours." I almost laughed. "Mrs. Carter, with all due respect, this isn't about passion or care. I'm not giving away something I built from the ground up, and I'm not going to let anyone bully me into it." Her tone shifted, becoming colder. "Aaron, I think you're being very short-sighted. Family is about compromise. If you can't understand that, maybe Jenna was right to reconsider this relationship." "Maybe she was," I said, my voice steady. "Goodbye, Mrs. Carter." I hung up before she could respond and immediately blocked her number too. The second wave came from mutual friends. Jenna wasted no time spinning her version of events to anyone who would listen. According to her, I was a control freak who didn't value family and refused to share the success I supposedly owed to others. It didn't take long for some of those friends to start reaching out to me, wanting to know my side of the story. One friend, Emily, texted me, "Hey, Aaron, I heard some things from Jenna, and I just want to understand what's going on. Did you really call off the engagement because she wanted to involve her parents in your business?" I sighed and decided to nip this in the bud. I texted back, "Emily, here's the short version. Jenna demanded I give her parents a stake in my company as a wedding gift. When I refused, she threatened to end the engagement. I wasn't about to be manipulated like that, so I walked away. I have proof if you want to see it." To her credit, Emily replied quickly, "Wow, that's not the version I heard. Thanks for explaining. I'm sorry you're dealing with this." That was the pattern with most people. They'd reach out after hearing Jenna's twisted narrative, but once I shared my side, and sometimes a screenshot or two, they realized the truth. A few people stayed neutral, which was fine with me, but most were supportive. And Jenna? She was losing allies fast. The third wave was Jenna herself. After her attempts to rally support fell flat, she shifted tactics. Suddenly, I was getting emails and voicemails full of apologies and sob stories. "Aaron, I'm so sorry," one voicemail began. Her voice was trembling like she was on the verge of tears. "I let my parents get into my head, and I pushed you too far. Please, can we just talk? I love you, and I don't want to lose you." I deleted the voicemail without replying. Love? Was that what she called trying to manipulate me into giving away a piece of my company? If this was love, I wanted no part of it. Another email came a few days later, this one more desperate. "Aaron, please. I made a mistake. I was under so much pressure and I wasn't thinking straight. Can't we work this out? I miss you." It was tempting to respond, just to tell her how ridiculous she sounded. But I didn't. I knew engaging with her would only give her more fuel. Instead, I forwarded the emails to Olivia, my lawyer, and asked if I needed to take any further action. Olivia assured me that as long as Jenna wasn't harassing me or trying to interfere with my business, I was fine to ignore her. By the end of the first week, things started to quiet down. The calls and messages stopped, and I didn't hear from Jenna or her parents again. I thought maybe I'd finally turned a corner, until one of my employees brought something to my attention. "Hey, Aaron," she said, pulling me aside after a team meeting. "I don't know if you've seen this, but there's a post about you on Facebook. It's from someone named Jenna Carter. She's saying some pretty harsh stuff." My stomach sank. "What kind of stuff?" She hesitated. "She's calling you controlling and greedy, and she's saying you abandoned her right before the wedding because you didn't want to share your success with her family." I took a deep breath and nodded. "Thanks for letting me know. I'll take care of it." When I looked up the post later, it was exactly what I expected. Jenna had written a long, dramatic rant about how I'd betrayed her and refused to compromise for the sake of our relationship. The comments were a mixed bag. Some people sympathized with her, while others questioned her version of events. I didn't respond to the post directly, but I made sure to save screenshots. Then I called Olivia again. "This is exactly why I told you to document everything," she said. "If she tries to escalate this further, we'll be ready." Thankfully, it didn't come to that. The post eventually fizzled out, and most people seemed to move on. Jenna, however, wasn't so lucky. Her attempts to smear me only made her look petty, and it wasn't long before the truth caught up to her. Mutual friends who had initially taken her side started reaching out to apologize, saying they'd heard the full story and couldn't believe how far she'd go. Looking back, I realized I'd dodged a massive bullet. I stood my ground, protected what I'd built, and walked away with my dignity intact. And Jenna? Well, I'm sure she's still out there somewhere, trying to spin her sob story to anyone who will listen. But that's not my problem anymore. As far as I'm concerned, I made the right choice. My business is mine, my boundaries are intact, and my future is looking a hell of a lot brighter without her in it. Story 4. My parents demanded I sign over my house to my older brother. When I refused, they tried to steal it from me. So I pressed charges and exposed their fraud. Now they're begging me to bail them out. Hey everyone! Before we jump into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed the channel is losing some traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It's quick, free, and it helps us keep bringing you awesome content. Your support means the world. Let's keep this channel growing together. Thanks so much. Now let's start the video. All right, Reddit. I never thought I'd be fighting my family over a house I bought with my own damn money. But here we are. I wish I could make this shit up, but they actually tried to steal my house. Here's how it went down. I, 38 male, grew up in a house where the dynamic was clear. My older brother Nate, 41 male, was the golden child, the firstborn, the heir to everything. My parents never tried to hide this fact. They'd say, Nate will inherit the family home, the money, all of it, right in front of me. Their reasoning? He was born first. That's literally it. I was always the afterthought kid, the one who was supposed to just accept that Nate got the best of everything. For years, I watched it happen. Nate got the bigger bedroom, the car for his 16th birthday, college fully paid for. I got student loans and a bus pass. My buddy Rick has seen this play out since we were in middle school. Your parents act like Nate hung the moon, and you're just some random neighbor kid, he'd tell me. He wasn't wrong. The pattern continued into adulthood. When Nate got married to his wife Karen, my parents gave them a $30,000 gift for the down payment on their first house. When I asked for similar help 4 years later, I got a lecture about fiscal responsibility and bootstraps. Nate's career path was equally blessed. After college, my dad called in favors to get him a management position at his friend's construction company. No experience required. Meanwhile, I started at the bottom rung of an IT firm, working my way up through certifications and late nights. Dad never even asked what I did for a living until I'd been doing it for 3 years. Fast forward to last year, I finally saved enough to buy my own place after years of busting my ass. A 3-bedroom in a neighborhood I liked. The house needed work, but I spent 6 months getting it exactly how I wanted it. New kitchen, refinished hardwoods, converted garage into a home gym. This place was 100% mine, bought with money I earned through 15 years of 60-hour weeks and aggressive saving. I felt like I'd finally done something that was just for me. My name on a deed, my rules, my life. No family strings attached. At least that's what I thought. About 2 months after moving in, my parents invited themselves over for dinner. Dad inspected everything like he was a building code inspector, making little comments about amateur work on my renovations. Mom kept asking if I was lonely in such a big house for just one person. After dinner, they sat me down with these serious expressions I remembered from childhood lectures. Son, my dad said, your mother and I have been discussing your house situation. We think it would make more sense for Nate to take over the property. I just stared at him. Excuse me? Mom jumped in. We're just trying to keep the family assets properly managed. Nate has children who need the space. You're single. It's the practical solution. What the hell are you talking about? This is my house, I said. I bought it. With my money. There's no situation to discuss. Dad leaned forward, using his intimidation pose that worked when I was 10, but not anymore. We're not trying to take it from you. This is about family unity. Nate would, of course, let you stay here until you find a smaller place. Before I could respond, Nate walked in from the kitchen, where he'd apparently been listening the whole time. He had that smug look he's had since we were kids. Don't take it personally, bro, he said. It's just about what makes sense for the family. You don't really need all this space. I stood up. This is my home. I'm not signing anything over to you or anyone else. End of discussion. The temperature in the room dropped about 20 degrees. My parents exchanged that look they always share when I don't fall in line. They left shortly after, the evening clearly ruined, for them. I spent that night pacing my house, half convinced I'd hallucinated the entire conversation. What kind of family asks you to give up your house? What kind of brother thinks that's a reasonable request? The entitlement was so absurd I actually laughed out loud, alone in my kitchen at midnight, trying to process what had just happened. The next morning, I called Rick, the only person who truly understood my family dynamic, because he'd witnessed it firsthand for decades. Dude, I think my family's lost their minds, I told him, recounting the previous night's conversation. Honestly, I'm not even surprised, Rick said. Your brother's always thought he was entitled to everything you have. Remember when he tried to take your first car? I did remember. I'd saved for 2 years working at a grocery store to buy a used car when I was 18. Nate had wrecked his second car, the one my parents bought him after he totaled the first, and suddenly started talking about how he needed mine for his job. My parents had actually backed him up. I only kept the car by threatening to drop out of college and move across the country. Yeah, but this is different, I said. This is my house. How could they possibly think I'd just hand it over? Because you've never really stood up to them before, Rick pointed out. Not for keeps. You've complained, you've argued, but in the end, you always showed up for holidays. You always played nice. They think you'll fold this time too. He was right. I'd spent decades swallowing my resentment for the sake of family peace. This time would be different. After that visit, things escalated faster than I expected. Mom started texting constantly with guilt trips. Families should support each other, and Nate's children deserve a stable home. And why are you being so selfish? Dad would call with speeches about responsibility to the family name and thinking beyond yourself. My Aunt Susan, Mom's sister, and equally entitled, started calling me too. Your cousin gave his starter home to his older brother when he got married. That's what family does, she lectured. I reminded her that her son was gifted a house by his grandfather, so it wasn't exactly the same situation. She hung up on me. Nate was the absolute worst. He started showing up unannounced with his wife Karen, who's the human equivalent of a let me speak to your manager haircut. They'd walk through my house pointing at things, discussing what they'd change once it was theirs. This wall should come down, Karen would say, tapping on my living room wall. We need an open concept for entertaining. The first couple times I tried to stay civil, reminding them that this was my house and I wasn't selling or transferring it. They'd just smile and nod like I was a child throwing a tantrum. We understand you're attached to the place, Karen would say in her condescending tone. Change is hard. Their kids, 8 and 10, both spoiled rotten, would run wild through my house. They'd jump on furniture, track mud on my new floors, and mess with my stuff while Nate and Karen did nothing to stop them. Kids will be kids, Nate would say whenever I pointed out their behavior, as if destruction of property was some unavoidable force of nature. Then one Saturday, I came home from the gym to find Nate's SUV parked in my driveway, their family inside my house. They'd used the spare key I stupidly kept under a rock for emergencies. We were just in the neighborhood, Nate said casually, while his kids were literally drawing on my dining room wall with markers. Get your kids and get out, I said. Now. Karen gave me her signature look of practiced outrage. They're just playing. Don't be so uptight. I took my key back and changed the locks that afternoon. Rick came over to help and couldn't believe what was happening. Dude, this is next level entitlement, he said, as we installed new deadbolts. Document everything. Taking his advice, I installed security cameras covering every entry point of my house and started keeping records of every interaction. The worst incident happened about 3 months after I bought the place. Besides the house, my pride and joy was my '69 Dodge Dart Swinger. Classic muscle car, metallic green with the original 340 V8. I'd spent 2 years restoring it. Countless weekends, late nights in the garage, thousands of dollars in parts. I did most of the work myself, from rebuilding the carburetor to reupholstering the interior. That car represented thousands of hours of my life. I was in the kitchen when I heard a strange scraping sound coming from the driveway. I looked out the window and saw Nate's 10-year-old Tyler deliberately dragging a rock along the passenger side of my Dart, carving a deep scratch from headlight to taillight. I ran outside, blood boiling. What the hell are you doing? I shouted. The kid looked at me with this smug little smile, the same one his father always had. It's just a stupid old car, he said, still holding the rock. I lost it. I grabbed the rock from his hand and threw it across the yard, then shoved him. Not hard, but enough that he fell on his ass looking shocked. Get the hell away from my car! I yelled through clenched teeth. The kid started wailing like I'd broken his arm. Nate and Karen came running out, followed by my parents who had apparently been inside the whole time. What is wrong with you? Karen screamed, scooping up Tyler. He's just a child. Your child just caused $3,000 in damage to my car, I said, pointing to the deep gouge in the paint and metal. Nate stepped up, chest puffed out. It's just a car. He didn't mean anything by it. Are you blind? He did it on purpose. My dad put his hand on my shoulder, that patronizing gesture he's always used. Son, you need to calm down. Kids make mistakes. You can't put your possessions above family. I shrugged his hand off. That's exactly the problem with this family. Your golden child and his spawn can destroy whatever they want, and I'm supposed to just take it? He's 10 years old, my mother said, appalled. You pushed a child to the ground. I pushed a vandal who was destroying my property, I corrected her. And where were you all when he was doing it? Sitting inside planning how to take my house? Aunt Susan, who had apparently also been invited to this ambush, chimed in from the porch. This is why you're not ready for responsibilities. You can't even control your temper around children. The family closed ranks, all of them glaring at me like I was a criminal. Not one of them, not a single one, acknowledged what Tyler had done or offered to pay for repairs. Instead, they spent the next hour lecturing me about my anger issues and how materialistic I was. After they finally left, I stood in the driveway, running my fingers along the scratch in my dart. 2 years of work, damaged in seconds by a kid who knew exactly what he was doing. And somehow I was the bad guy. I didn't let it slide, of course. The next morning, I called Nate directly. I want $3,500 for the damage to my car. Professional restoration will cost at least that much. Nate laughed. You're kidding, right? It's a scratch. Buff it out. This isn't a negotiation. Either you pay for the damage your kid caused, or I'm filing a police report for vandalism and an insurance claim naming Tyler. He's a minor, you idiot. Nothing will happen. Actually, as his parent, you're legally responsible for damage he causes. And I have security footage of him doing it deliberately. There was a pause. I'll give you $500. That's more than generous. $3,500 or I file the report today. Your call. He hung up. 3 hours later, I filed a police report for vandalism and a claim with my insurance company, explicitly naming Tyler and documenting that Nate and Karen had refused to cover the damages. I included statements about the pattern of harassment and trespassing. The officer who took my report seemed skeptical at first, until I showed him photos of the damage and text messages from Nate. Family disputes are messy, he said, but property damage is property damage. 2 days later, I got a text from Nate. Got your little report. Good luck getting any cop to care about your family drama. You're embarrassing yourself. This wasn't over, not by a long shot. Then about 4 months after the initial request, Nate showed up with a card from my parents. It had this sappy message about family legacy, and inside was a crude hand-drawn family tree with my house sketched in under Nate's name. A post-it note read, "Just sign the papers, son. It's what's best for everyone." I tore it up in front of him. Get the hell off my property. Nate's face turned red. You're making this harder than it needs to be. We're trying to be nice about this. There's nothing nice about trying to steal my house. It's not stealing when it's family, he said. Like that made any sense. Think about my kids. I am thinking about your kids. I'm thinking they shouldn't be raised by parents who teach them it's okay to take what isn't theirs. He tried to push past me into the house, but I blocked the doorway. Move, he said, trying to sound threatening. Make me, I replied. For a second, I thought he might actually try to throw a punch. His hands balled into fists and his face went from red to purple. But then he turned and stormed off, shouting that I'd regret this. After that, things went from persistent to hostile. My family completely closed ranks against me. I was officially the black sheep for having the audacity to keep my own property. My parents stopped calling entirely. The family group chat went silent for me. Holiday plans excluded me. The family gossip machine went into overdrive. I heard from a cousin that my parents were telling everyone I was mentally ill and making poor decisions. The only direct messages I got were from Nate, and they weren't subtle anymore. You're making a huge mistake, he texted one evening. We can do this the easy way or the hard way. I didn't respond. I just added it to my growing file of documentation. Meanwhile, the incidents around my house became more frequent and destructive. My mailbox was smashed in. My garden was trampled. Someone egged my front door. Twice, I found my security cameras had been turned away from their viewing angles. I filed police reports each time, building a paper trail. The officers recognized me by the third visit, but not much came of the reports. I kept getting emails saying, investigation pending, or insufficient evidence to proceed. The system works slowly, if at all. After 2 weeks, one of the officers took me aside. Look, man, I get what's happening here. Family disputes are brutal, but we've got limited resources and smashed mailboxes aren't exactly top priority. So I'm just supposed to let them vandalize my property? I asked. He gave me a knowing look. Document everything. Get better cameras, ones they can't reach or tamper with, and maybe consider civil options. Restraining orders, lawsuits, hit 'em where it hurts. It was solid advice. The next day, I upgraded to cameras mounted high on the house, out of reach without a ladder, with backup battery power in case someone cut the electricity. I installed a steel mailbox embedded in concrete. I added motion sensors that would alert me if anyone set foot on my property. One evening, I came home to find Nate's kids riding bikes across my lawn, digging deep ruts into the grass I'd just reseeded. Karen sat in her SUV parked across the street, clearly supervising but doing nothing to stop them. I walked over to her car. "Get your minions off my property now." She barely looked up from her phone. "They're just playing. It's not a big deal." "It is a big deal. It's trespassing, and you know it." She rolled her eyes. "God, you're so dramatic. This is why everyone thinks you're unstable." I took out my phone and started recording. "I'm asking you one more time to remove your children from my property." Something about the camera made her change her approach. She called the kids over with fake sweetness, then glared at me. "Nate's right about you. You're going to regret this." That night, I called Rick. "I think I need to dig deeper into what's really going on," I told him. "This isn't normal, even for my family." "My cousin works at the county records office," Rick said. "Let me see what I can find out about your parents' property." While waiting for Rick's intel, I decided to take a more proactive approach. I checked Nate's social media and noticed something interesting. For someone who acted like he was doing great, there were subtle signs of financial strain. The family vacation they'd been planning for months suddenly disappeared from Karen's Instagram. Nate's business page hadn't been updated in weeks. Their older kid was suddenly at public school instead of the private one they'd bragged about. I also remembered that Nate had been weirdly vague about his construction business for the past couple of years. Whenever family asked how it was going, he'd give generic answers about expansion plans and new projects on the horizon, but I'd never actually seen any evidence of these projects. Something wasn't adding up. The level of desperation they were showing about getting my house seemed disproportionate. Nate had always been entitled, but this went beyond that. This felt like panic. 2 weeks later, I got a weird call from my bank. The mortgage department wanted to verify some information about a recent application that included my property. "I haven't applied for anything," I told the woman on the phone. "We have a refinance application with your property listed as secondary collateral." "That's impossible," I said. "I haven't refinanced anything." There was a pause. "The application was submitted by Thomas and Linda Harrison. My parents." My stomach dropped. "They don't own my house. I do." "That's what our verification process flagged," she said. "The documentation submitted doesn't match our records." I asked what documentation they had submitted. "I can't share all the details, but it appears they tried to include your property as part of a family trust. Our verification process caught the discrepancy." After I hung up, I called Rick, who came over immediately with a folder of documents his cousin had pulled. What he found changed everything. The family estate, the legacy my parents kept talking about preserving, was mortgaged to the hilt. Not just once, but 3 times over the past decade. Each refinance coincided with a cash injection into Nate's business ventures, all of which had failed quietly. Nate's construction company had folded 2 years ago. His real estate investment group dissolved after some lawsuit I never heard about. His sports bar closed within 8 months of opening. Each failure had been covered up by my parents taking more equity out of their home. "There's more," Rick said, pointing to recent documents. "They're 6 months behind on payments. The bank has started foreclosure proceedings." Suddenly it all made sense. They weren't after my house because of some family tradition. They needed my property to bail them out of financial ruin they'd created by bankrolling Nate's failures. As we dug deeper through county records and publicly available loan documents, we found something even worse. My parents had recently attempted to take out a new loan using falsified documents that claimed they owned my house as a secondary property. The bank's verification process had caught it, but they had tried. "Here's how they did it," Rick said, pointing to a notarized document. "They created a fake family trust dated 3 years ago, listing all family properties, including your address. Even though you didn't own it then, they backdated everything and forged what looks like your signature as a trustee. Then they tried to file a quitclaim deed, transferring their portion of your house to use as loan collateral. The fraud attempt was documented in black and white. They had used my address, my property details, but replaced my name with theirs on loan applications. And there was Karen's signature as a witness on several of the documents. She wasn't just a bystander, she was actively involved. I felt sick reading through the paperwork. Not just at the betrayal, but at the sheer incompetence of it all. Did they really think banks wouldn't verify property ownership? Did they think I wouldn't notice if my house was suddenly part of their collateral? The desperation was obvious. Armed with this information, I contacted a lawyer specializing in real estate fraud. She met me at her office the following week, taking her time going through my 3-inch binder of evidence: photos, texts, emails, property records, loan documents, police reports. This is actually pretty straightforward, she told me after reviewing everything. They've attempted loan fraud, identity theft, and document forgery. We have multiple options. What do you recommend? I asked. She leaned back in her chair. Well, the nuclear option would be to press criminal charges. They could face serious jail time for the forgery and fraud. The civil route would be a restraining order against all parties, followed by a lawsuit for damages and attempted theft of property. I nodded. And if I wanted to keep this somewhat contained, you could use this as leverage. Threaten legal action unless they meet certain conditions, like leaving you and your property alone permanently. I thought about it. As angry as I was, the idea of my parents going to jail didn't sit well with me. Not because they didn't deserve it, but because it would cause a family explosion that would drag on for years. I wanted this over with, not prolonged. Let's prepare for all options, I told her. Draw up the paperwork for both criminal charges and a civil suit, but hold off on filing. I want to try one more approach first. The next time Nate showed up unannounced, my phone alerted me before he even reached the front door. I opened the door before he could try it. Trespassing again, Nate? Bold move considering I already have a stack of police reports with your name on them. He tried to push past me. We need to talk. I blocked the doorway. No, we don't. Everything goes through my lawyer now. Lawyer? Don't be ridiculous. This is family business. Cut this crap already. Family my ass. You tried to steal my house and identity. The security camera is recording this whole conversation, by the way. For the first time, I saw real fear flash across his face. He retreated to his car without another word. The next day, I had my lawyer send formal cease and desist letters to my parents, Nate and Karen, and Aunt Susan. The letters detailed the evidence we had collected and warned that any further contact or trespassing would result in immediate legal action. The response was swift. My mother called in tears, claiming they'd never meant any harm. My father sent an email full of bluster about how I was overreacting. Nate didn't contact me directly, but I heard through another cousin that he was telling people I'd lost my mind and was making up lies about the family. None of them denied the fraud attempt. Not one. 2 days later, I received a group text from my mother. Family meeting. Sunday, 2 p.m. Attendance is mandatory. I spent the next 4 days organizing my evidence with my lawyer. We compiled a binder with dividers, property documents, harassment timeline, financial fraud, vandalism. Every text, email, and photo neatly arranged and time-stamped. I showed up with Rick waiting in his car down the street as backup. The whole family was there. My parents, Nate and Karen, their kids, Aunt Susan, and a couple of cousins clearly brought in as reinforcements. My dad started with his usual patriarchal speech about family unity and respect. Mom followed with tearful comments about how I was tearing the family apart with my selfishness. I let them finish. Then I placed my thick binder on the table. I know about the mortgages, I said calmly. I know about the loan fraud attempt using my property. I know about the foreclosure proceedings. I know everything. The room went silent. Nate's face was drained of color. My mother stopped mid-sob. I got a call from the bank, I continued. They're very interested in the falsified loan applications with my property listed as collateral. My father tried to regain control. This is all a misunderstanding. 3 mortgages to fund Nate's failed businesses isn't a misunderstanding, I cut in. Forging documents to secure a loan using my house isn't a misunderstanding. It's fraud. Nate stood up, pointing at me. You ungrateful little... Sit down, I said, not raising my voice. I'm not finished. I've already filed a police report for the vandalism to my car. I've documented every trespass, every threat, every intrusion. I have a paper trail a mile long, and I'm prepared to press charges on all of it. The doorbell rang, interrupting my speech. My father looked relieved at the distraction until the door opened and Uncle Robert walked in. My dad's brother, who had kept his distance from family drama for years, looked grim. Sorry I'm late, he said, then looked directly at Nate. I got your message about needing more money, but I thought it would be better to discuss it here. Nate's eyes widened. Uncle Rob, this isn't the time or place, Uncle Robert finished. I think it's exactly the right time and place. I've loaned you $85,000 over the past 4 years. Money you swore was for your business, money you promised to repay. Now I find out you've been taking loans from half a dozen other people, including trying to use your brother's property as collateral without his knowledge. The room erupted. My parents tried to talk over Uncle Robert, but he raised his voice. I've been quiet too long about this. Your golden boy here has been running a one-man Ponzi scheme through this family for years. I kept quiet because your father begged me to, said it would destroy the family if it came out. But enough is enough. He turned to me. I should have warned you years ago about what was happening. Nate was sputtering, trying to regain control of the narrative. Uncle Rob is exaggerating. I've had some cash flow issues. You've had cash flow issues for a decade, Uncle Robert interrupted. You've never paid back a dime to anyone in this family. Your businesses fail because you siphon all the money into your personal accounts. I've seen the records. My mother was ghost white now, looking between Nate and Uncle Robert like she was watching a tennis match. I turned back to my parents. I have two options for you all. Option 1, I file formal charges. Loan fraud, identity theft, attempted property theft, criminal vandalism, harassment. The bank freezes all accounts while they investigate. The house goes into immediate foreclosure. Nate and Dad likely face criminal charges. Aunt Susan gasped. Karen started crying. Option 2, I continued. You all leave me alone, completely. No calls, no visits, no texts, no more family tradition talk, no more demands. My house remains mine, and you all stay away from it and from me, forever. You can't just cut off your family, my mother said, but her voice had lost its manipulative edge. Watch me, I replied. I'll give you until tomorrow to decide. If I don't hear that you've chosen option 2, I'll assume you want option 1. I stood up to leave. Nate blocked my path. You think you're so smart? He hissed. You've always been jealous. I laughed in his face. Jealous? Of what? Your failed businesses? Your mountain of debt? Your inability to support your family without mommy and daddy bailing you out? Move. As I reached the door, my father called out. Son, please, we can work this out. I turned back. You had years to work this out. You chose Nate every time. Now I'm choosing myself. Uncle Robert followed me out. I'm filing my own claim against Nate, he said quietly. I've got canceled checks, promissory notes, everything. Should have done it years ago. Why didn't you? I asked. Family loyalty, he said with a bitter laugh. Stupidest reason in the world to let someone rob you blind. As we walked to our cars, he handed me a folder. These are copies of every loan I gave Nate, with the dates and his promises about repayment. Use them if you need to. I nodded. Thanks for coming today. The next morning, I received a text from my mother. We choose option 2. Sure they did, but I chose option 1. I didn't respond. Instead, I contacted my lawyer and had her start the process, filing documentation about the attempted fraud with the bank, a civil claim for damages to my car against Nate and Karen as parents, and a request for a restraining order against the immediate family. Are you sure you want to go through with all of this? My lawyer asked. They've agreed to your terms. They've agreed to things before, I told her. I'm not taking any chances this time. File everything. After that, things went quiet for a while. I kept checking my mailbox for court dates or responses to the filings, but the legal system moves at its own pace. Weeks turned into months. Life went on. I doubled down on work, picking up extra projects and earning a reputation as the guy who could solve the problems no one else wanted to touch. The promotion I'd been chasing for 2 years finally came through. Senior architect with a 20% salary bump and stock options. My boss cited my methodical approach to complex problems as the reason. If he only knew how much practice I'd had. I also focused on my house, finishing all the renovations I'd planned. New roof, updated plumbing, smart home features throughout. The place was becoming exactly what I'd envisioned. 4 months after our confrontation, I got a plain manila envelope in the mail. Inside was a judgment for the car damage, $3,500 plus $800 in legal fees. Nate and Karen were ordered to pay, but the judgment didn't come with an enforcement mechanism. Actually collecting would be another battle. Around the same time, I heard through the family grapevine that Uncle Robert had won his case against Nate, a $85,000 judgment plus interest and legal fees. Nate had apparently tried to claim the money was a gift, but Uncle Robert's meticulous documentation proved otherwise. According to my cousin Dave, Nate had shown up to court unprepared, expecting the family connection to save him. It didn't. I learned through the family grapevine that things were falling apart for them. Nate's latest business venture quietly closed its doors. No big bankruptcy announcement, just a for-lease sign in the window one day. Karen lost her job at the real estate firm. Not in some public firing, but through a vague LinkedIn update about seeking new opportunities. Word was that someone had mentioned the attempted fraud to her boss, and she was quietly let go to avoid any association with mortgage impropriety. My parents started dodging calls from family members they'd borrowed money from. They stopped showing up at the country club. Their cars disappeared, replaced by much older models. The foreclosure proceeded without fanfare, just a listing on the county website, and later a realtor's sign in their yard. The restraining order was granted after 2 rescheduled hearings, and a stack of paperwork. When the official notice finally arrived, it felt anticlimactic. Just a document stating they legally had to stay 500 feet away from me and my property. 6 months after the big confrontation, I got a voicemail from Nate. His voice was subdued, none of the usual bluster. "Hey, it's me. I know you probably don't want to talk, but things are tight right now. We're staying with Karen's parents, but it's not going well. The kids are having a hard time. I was wondering if maybe we could work something out." I deleted it without responding. The bank formally charged my parents with attempted loan fraud. They avoided jail time but received probation and hefty fines. Their reputations, which they'd always been obsessed with maintaining, were in tatters. I ran into my mother at the grocery store 6 months later. She looked 10 years older, wearing clothes I didn't recognize, cheaper, worn. She started to approach me, then stopped, remembering the restraining order. "Son, we need help," she called across the aisle. "We have nowhere to go." I looked at her. "And?" She seemed confused. "We're family." "Yeah," I said. "We're not." "But we have nowhere to go," she repeated. "After making me fight for every scrap my entire life? After watching me work 3 jobs to put myself through college while you paid Nate's tuition? Or after trying to take the one thing I built for myself? You expect me to bail you out now?" Her face hardened. "After everything we did for you?" I cut her off with a laugh. "Shut up. Don't you dare claim you did anything for me. You gave me nothing but suffering." "Wow. Didn't know you became this heartless," she said. "Goodbye, Mom." I watched her walk away. Felt nothing. My last interaction with Nate came about 9 months after everything went down. He showed up at my workplace, somehow having discovered where my office was located. Security called up to warn me that someone claiming to be my brother was in the lobby, causing a scene. I went down to find Nate looking nothing like his former self. The confident stance had given way to a defeated slouch, but the entitlement was still there, just below the surface. "5 minutes," he said when he saw me. "Just give me 5 minutes." I pointed to the security guard. "The restraining order says 500 feet. This is about 15. You want to add violation charges to your record?" "I'm trying to make things right," he insisted. "We're brothers. We're DNA matches. That's it. Mom and Dad are losing everything," he said, his voice breaking. "They'll be on the street soon. So what? Jesus, man. Have a heart. They're our parents." I stared at him. Funny how family only matters when you need something. You didn't care about family when your kid was vandalizing my car, or when you were trying to steal my house, or when you were forging documents with my name on them. I made mistakes, okay? I admit it, but they're going to lose everything. "They already did," I replied, "by backing you instead of treating us equally, by mortgaging their future for your failures." He actually had the audacity to look offended. "So that's what this is about? You're punishing them because you think they loved me more?" "No," I said. "I'm protecting myself from people who tried to steal from me. It's that simple." As security escorted him out, he shouted back at me, "You'll regret this. Family is all you have in the end." I went back to my office and closed the door. Thought about what he'd said. Family is all you have in the end. Maybe that was true for some people, but not for me. After that, I didn't hear from them again. The next few months? Peaceful. Got a promotion at work. Finished my house renovations. Started dating someone who respected boundaries. I'd take the Dodge out on weekends, engine running like a beast. Sometimes Rick and Uncle Robert would come along. That's the thing about family. It's never about blood. It's about respect. The people who tried to take what was mine weren't family. They were thieves. My house, my car, my life. I earned every bit of it. No one gets to take that from me. Story 5. My ungrateful ex texted after graduation. "Thanks for paying my tuition. My new rich man thinks you're pathetic." I replied, "You're welcome." Then I called in all the money she owed me. Now she's working 3 jobs to pay me back and begging to lower the payments. Hey everyone! Before we jump into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed the channel is losing some traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It's quick, free, and it helps us keep bringing you awesome content. Your support means the world. Let's keep this channel growing together. Thanks so much. Now let's start the video. Hey Reddit. My fiance dumped me right after she graduated, 1 month before the wedding. I'd paid her tuition, thinking I was investing in her, and we were building a future. She thought she was being slick, flexing her betrayal. Too bad I had receipts. Now she's stuck paying back every cent. Here's how it went down. I'm 33 male, generally a low drama guy. Own a plumbing business, decent condo in a middle-class neighborhood, regular life. Nothing fancy, but I'm comfortable and financially stable. I've always been methodical about money, budgeting, investments, emergency funds. My dad taught me early, track every dollar or watch them all disappear. Solid advice that served me well. When my fiancée Megan, 29 female, got into pharmacy school 6 years into our relationship, we had just gotten engaged at the time, we both saw it as our big break. Wedding planned for 1 month after graduation, honeymoon deposits paid for Cabo, future mapped out with a 3-bedroom house in the suburbs. Then reality hit. PharmD program costs were insane. $34,000 per year for 4 years, plus books, fees, and living expenses. Her scholarships covered maybe 15%, despite her parents constantly name-dropping their connections and status in the medical community. Truth was, they were barely making ends meet themselves, but were obsessed with appearances and social climbing. Her dad drove a leased car he couldn't afford, and her mom was constantly just about to land some big real estate deal that never materialized. They lived in a house that was mortgaged to the hilt, threw lavish dinner parties with expensive catering, then quietly ate ramen for the next 2 weeks to recover financially. Complete financial disaster masked by designer clothes and social media posts. I stepped up. My plumbing business plus weekend emergency calls meant I could cover most of her expenses. 60-hour weeks for me, sometimes 70 when big commercial jobs came in. I'd wake up at 4:30 a.m., be on site by 6, work until 6 p.m., then take emergency calls until midnight some days. The money was good, but the grind was brutal. She called it our future investment when asking for money, and I tracked every transfer like the spreadsheet guy I am. This wasn't charity. Megan constantly texted things like, first big pharmacy check, paying you back every dollar with interest, then upgrading our wedding venue. I saved those texts. Not from distrust, but because I'm meticulous with money. Always have been. I still remember the night I made the decision to cash out my IRA to cover her third-year tuition. $26,000 plus the early withdrawal penalty. We were sitting on my balcony, and she was crying about potentially having to drop out. I can't ask you to do that, she said, while very clearly asking me to do exactly that. It's an investment in us, I told her. Just remember this when you're making the big bucks. I'll pay back every cent with interest, she promised, suddenly brightening. Pharmacists at Metropolitan Hospital start at $120,000. We'll be set. 2 days later, the money was in her tuition account. I skipped my buddy's destination wedding in Cancun that same month. Couldn't afford both. When Megan asked why I wasn't going, I just said I had deadlines. No point making her feel bad about a decision I'd made. Every semester followed the same pattern. Megan would send links to her tuition portal. I'd transfer $17,000. She'd promise repayment with detailed plans of our future. 4 years of this. About $78,000 total. Countless 70-hour weeks for me. 0 vacations. Endless, sorry, can't make it, got an emergency call. Meanwhile, her Instagram was full of study breaks at upscale restaurants with her pharmacy school friends, weekend trips to her parents' vacation home, and posts about how self-care is essential during school. Funny how her self-care always involves spending money, while mine involved making it. My best friend Ronnie saw through it early. We were shooting pool at our usual bar when he finally said what I didn't want to hear. Dude, you realize you've spent more on her school than your truck, condo down payment, and retirement combined, he said, lining up a shot. Meanwhile, she's posting Instagram stories from weekend trips with her pharmacy girls. It's an investment, I insisted. Once she's licensed, we're set. Ronnie sank the 8-ball and looked at me dead on. Just saying, I've never seen her post about how great you are for funding her future. Lot of posts about those Tiffany earrings her parents got her, though. I brushed him off. Ronnie's always been cynical. Divorced parents, 3 failed engagements, and a job as a divorce attorney that only reinforced his views on relationships. The guy literally makes his living from failed marriages, so of course he sees red flags everywhere. Still, his comment stuck with me. Just keep the receipts, he said, ordering another round. And maybe stop turning down emergency calls to go to her family dinners when they still treat you like the help. I rolled my eyes but followed his advice on the receipts. The emergency calls thing too, eventually. Dom, my business partner, noticed the hours I was putting in. We'd started the plumbing company right out of trade school, built it from nothing to 15 employees and a solid reputation in our city. He knew something was off when I missed our quarterly business planning session, first time in 7 years. Everything okay with you and Megan? Haven't seen her at our company barbecues lately, he asked, leaning against our service van while we waited for parts. She's busy with rotations, I explained. Final year is intense. Dom nodded, but I caught the look. He'd been through something similar with his ex. Just make sure you're taking care of yourself too, man. Business is booming, but you look like shit. When's the last time you slept more than 5 hours? I couldn't remember. Between emergency calls, regular jobs, and driving to Megan's campus to bring her dinner during late study sessions, sleep had become optional. But we were so close to the finish line. 4 years of investment was about to pay off. Just a few more months of grinding, then she'd graduate, we'd get married, and life would finally start. I should have seen the warning signs. Megan stopped talking about our future around year 3, stopped mentioning repayment plans, started referring to my career instead of our investment, began spending more time with her pharmacy school friends and less with me. But I chalked it up to the stress of her final rotations and board prep. I was too busy working to notice she was pulling away. 1 month before graduation, 5 weeks before our wedding, Megan hit me with the "I need space to focus on finals and boards" talk, said she needed to temporarily move back to her parents' place. Made sense, I guess. Pharmacy boards are brutal. I helped move some of her things, told myself this was temporary, even ordered a study gift basket to be delivered to her parents' house. $200 worth of high-end snacks, energy drinks, and a new set of highlighters in her favorite colors. The note read, "You've got this. Home stretch." Then came the text that changed everything. 3 days after graduation, "Hey, just wanted to say thanks for paying my PharmD tuition. My new man Tony thinks you're pathetic for investing in a woman clearly out of your league. Thanks for the free education. Enjoy your sad little life, LOL." I stared at my phone feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. The winky emoji. The LOL. The clearly out of your league comment. She wasn't just dumping me a month before our wedding. She was mocking me for financing her entire professional future. I checked her Instagram. There she was, arms wrapped around some guy in a tailored suit, standing in front of what looked like a luxury high-rise. Caption: "Upgrade complete Barbacher PharmD Barbat blessed Rocher moving up." My first instinct was to drive to her parents' house. My second, calmer thought was strategy. I've never been the type to lose my cool. Not when a contractor tried to screw us on a major job. Not when a client refused to pay a $20,000 invoice. Not even when my truck was stolen last year. I take my time, assess the situation, and execute a plan. I typed, "You're welcome." Then I started cataloging my records. Instead of losing it, I spent a full weekend gathering evidence. Bank transfers to Megan labeled PharmD tuition, cashier's checks to her university, screenshots of text exchanges discussing the loan arrangement, email threads about repayment plans. The total, $78,346.27. Every cent accounted for. I created a spreadsheet tracking each payment, with dates, confirmation numbers, and corresponding promises from Megan. I didn't have a signed loan agreement, but I had over 20 separate text and email threads where she promised to repay me in full with interest. I printed bank statements, highlighted the transfers, and organized them chronologically in a binder. I even had witnesses. Ronnie had heard Megan promise repayment multiple times, and she'd mentioned it to Dom at our company Christmas party last year. One text from her third year stood out. "Megan, OMG babe, you are literally saving my life. That $17,000 for this semester just cleared. I promise on everything I love, I'll pay you back every penny with interest when I'm making $120,000 as a clinical pharmacist. You're investing in US. Me. I know we're a team. Our future. Megan. Exactly. Partners in everything. Once I'm licensed, we're upgrading your whole life. New truck, maybe even move to a better neighborhood. Your plumbing grind is almost over." Looking back at that text now, I realized she'd been planning her exit for years. The comment wasn't about me retiring early. It was about her trading up once she had the credentials. I was just the stepping stone, the sucker who funded her ascension while she looked for someone better. I called Ronnie immediately. "She dumped you?" He didn't sound surprised, just resigned. "Worse," I said. "She texted to thank me for paying her way through school. Said her new rich boyfriend thinks I'm pathetic." A long pause. "Tell me you kept the receipts, Caleb. Every single one. Send me everything. I'm calling in a favor with Patricia at Westbrook Legal. She specializes in debt recovery." Armed with a comprehensive file of evidence, I drafted an email. Professional. Cold. Precise. Subject: outstanding financial obligations for PharmD program. Body: Megan, following your recent text, I'm writing about repayment of the $78,346.27 I provided for your PharmD program, which we repeatedly agreed you would repay in full. Given your recent graduation, please provide your repayment proposal within 5 days. Otherwise, I'll pursue formal debt recovery options. Regards, Caleb. I attached a detailed spreadsheet of every payment with dates, confirmation numbers, and corresponding text promises. The ball was in her court. Let's see what Tony the rich man thought about inheriting a $78,000 debt along with his new girlfriend. 4 days later, Megan called, practically shrieking, "Are you actually insane?" "Hello, Megan. I take it you received my email. That money was obviously a gift. You were my fiancé. That's what men do when they love someone. They support their future wife's dreams. You never once said I had to pay it back." Classic gaslighting. This from the woman who had literally texted me, "I'll pay you back every penny with interest at least 24 times over 4 years. Actually, Megan, we discussed repayment at least 24 times. I have multiple texts, emails, and witnesses who heard you explicitly promise to repay every dollar with interest. You're just pathetic and jealous. Tony makes 3 times what you do at his investment firm. He said your little email is basically extortion, and he's talking to his family's lawyer about it." Requesting repayment of a documented financial agreement isn't extortion, Megan. And I'm sure Tony, as an investment professional, understands loans and obligations. His opinion, however, is irrelevant to our agreement. She hung up. 3 hours later, her father called. "What kind of sick game are you playing? Trying to extort money from my daughter after breaking her heart?" "Wait, what?" "Mr. Wilson, I provided Megan substantial financial support under an explicit agreement she would repay it. And I didn't break anyone's heart. She ended our engagement via text 3 days after graduation. That's not what she told us. Regardless, Tony comes from an excellent family with significant resources. They don't need your working class money. Drop this vindictive crusade immediately." He hung up before I could respond. It sounded like they were banking heavily on Tony's wealth, perhaps more than he was aware of. It was like entering the Twilight Zone. According to Megan and her family, I was now the villain, the jealous ex trying to extort money from an innocent woman. Unbelievable. Then a series of Instagram DMs from Megan's cousin, Heather. Wow. Real small man energy trying to ruin Megan's life because she finally found someone worthy of her. So desperate and creepy. Tony's family has connections that can end you. The alternate reality they were living in was staggering. Megan then emailed, "Fine, I'll give you $5,000 to go away. One-time offer, take it or leave it. I'm being extremely generous considering you offered to help me through school. $5,000 on a $78,000 debt? Delusional. That's like offering to pay off your mortgage with a Starbucks gift card." The next day, my phone rang. Unknown number. Is this the guy who used to date Megan? A male voice, dripping with practiced condescension. Who's asking? Tony. Look, I understand you're upset about Megan choosing me, but this sad attempt at extorting money from her is just pitiful. Interesting perspective. My family manages 9 figures. I drive something that costs more than your yearly paycheck. So you're calling to pay her debt then? I kept my voice neutral. There was a pause. What? No, that's not. I'm telling you to back off. As a courtesy. A courtesy that doesn't actually solve the problem. Got it. Look. His voice lowered, suddenly less certain. Megan's having a hard time with this. She's mentioned some things about the amount. $78,000. Every penny documented, I supplied. Plus interest. Jesus Christ. I heard him exhale. That's ridiculous. No way she owes. I have documentation for every dollar. Texts, emails, witnesses. Would you like me to send you the file? Maybe you could review it, given your financial expertise. Silence. Or you could pay it, I continued, since you just mentioned your family portfolio. That's not my responsibility, he snapped. Facade completely gone. I'm not covering her ex's bullshit claims. So you're calling to... What exactly? Flex your wealth while simultaneously refusing to use it? Very helpful, Tony. Listen, you little... No, you listen. I have a documented agreement with Megan. Your family's portfolio is irrelevant unless you're putting it behind her. If you'd like to pay her debt, I'll send wiring instructions. Otherwise, we have nothing to discuss. You think you're so fucking clever, he hissed. You have no idea who you're dealing with. Actually, I think I do. Exactly what I expected. I hung up. The call confirmed everything. Tony talked big but wasn't about to drop $78,000 on Megan's pre-relationship debt. His carefully constructed image had cracked in under 2 minutes. All show, no substance. The kind of guy who brags about his daddy's money, but mysteriously can't pick up the check when it arrives. I forwarded Megan's email to Ronnie, who replied within minutes. They think you're bluffing. Rich people always think the rules don't apply to them. Time to show your cards. I responded to Megan. $5,000 for a debt of $78,346.27 is neither reasonable nor reflective of our numerous documented agreements. Given your Farm D credential and earning potential, which you frequently cited while discussing repayment, I'm open to a structured repayment plan. If we can't reach an agreement within 7 days, I'll pursue legal remedies. This may include actions affecting your credit score and potentially trigger a character and fitness review. The pharmacy board review point was something Ronnie discovered. Character and fitness reviews are standard for professionals handling controlled substances. Financial impropriety, especially breaking explicit financial agreements, can trigger investigations. Not that I wanted to harm her career, but she needed to understand the potential consequences of her actions. I researched further and found a recent case. An RE application of Jessica Torres, where the state pharmacy board had delayed a new graduate's license for 6 months pending review of financial misconduct allegations. I attached the case summary to my email. 7 business days passed. Nothing from Megan. Instead, I received a certified letter from Blackwell, Richardson and Associates, attorneys at law. Pure intimidation tactics. Claims that my baseless allegations, gifts freely given, and harassment constituted malicious interference with career prospects. They demanded I cease all communication or face significant legal consequences. Ronnie laughed when I showed him. They hired the expensive, threatening letterhead guy. Classic move when you're full of it, but want to scare someone off. I took their letter and my evidence file to Patricia, a debt recovery specialist recommended by a colleague. She reviewed everything thoroughly, spent 2 hours going through my documentation, occasionally nodding or making notes. Your documentation is impeccable, she said. Their letter is primarily intimidation with minimal substance. Their threats against you are largely unenforceable. She drafted a formal demand letter. It gave Megan 21 days to pay in full or agree to a reasonable repayment plan. Otherwise, civil proceedings would commence. The letter was direct, citing specific legal precedents and outlining the strength of my position. No bluffing, no intimidation, just cold, hard facts. 3 days after the letter was delivered, I got a call from my business phone service. My stomach dropped when I saw the number. "Can you come to the office?" asked Janet, who handles our customer service. When I arrived, she looked uncomfortable. "We've received a complaint about you using business resources to harass a former partner." "What?" She slid a printout across the desk, emails from my work account to Megan, but they were edited, with key parts about repayment removed to make it look like I was just angry about being dumped. "These have been altered," I said immediately. "I have the originals and can prove it." Janet looked relieved. I suspected something was off. The complaint came from someone who doesn't even use our services. A Mr. Wilson? He's demanding we terminate your business license for harassment conducted during business hours. I showed Janet the complete email thread from my personal account, the documented payment history, and Megan's original text. "Jesus," she muttered. "They're really trying to get you shut down over this?" "Apparently. Well, this complaint is dismissed. And I'd suggest keeping all correspondence with these people. They seem problematic." That night, I told Ronnie about the complaint. "They're getting desperate," he said, taking a swig of his soda. "They tried intimidation, then bribery. Now they're trying to mess with your livelihood. What's next, claiming you were abusive?" His words turned out to be prophetic. The next day, I received an email from one of our major commercial clients, a property management company that used our services exclusively for 15 buildings. "We've received concerning information about potential legal issues involving your company. Can you please clarify the situation regarding harassment allegations?" Someone had reached out to my clients. This was crossing a line. I immediately called the property manager, explained the situation truthfully, and offered to show him the documentation. He sighed. "Look, I figured it was BS. The email came from some random Gmail account claiming to be a concerned citizen. I know you're not the type, but I had to ask." "I appreciate that," I said. "There's an ongoing financial dispute with my ex-fiancée. She's attempting to avoid repaying a significant loan by creating diversions." "Been there," he said dryly. "Ex-wife tried to get me fired during our divorce. Keep doing quality work, and we're good." Crisis averted, but I was furious. They were now actively trying to destroy my business reputation to avoid paying a legitimate debt. This wasn't just about money anymore. It was about principle. A mutual friend from college, Tara, reached out. She'd heard contradicting stories. I showed her the actual text from Megan and my evidence file. "Jesus, that's cold," she said. "About Tony. He does have family money, but he's notorious for being controlling with it. His last girlfriend had to account for every dollar he invested in their relationship. Unless it makes him look good socially, I seriously doubt he's eager to cover her pre-existing debts." That confirmed my suspicion that Megan and her parents were grossly overestimating Tony's willingness to bankroll her financial messes. They thought they'd found a golden ticket, but in reality, they'd just traded one financial obligation for another, more controlling one. Tara offered another insight. Tony's dad cut his trust fund last year. He talks big, but his wallet doesn't always back it up. After my lawyer's letter arrived, I received an email from a different attorney, Jennifer Sanderson at Greystone Legal Partners. This one had a different tone. Ms. Wilson wishes to address this matter discreetly, concerned about professional ramifications. And then the insulting offer, without any admission of liability, a one-time settlement payment of $15,000. $15,000 on a $78,000 debt? After that text? Offensive. That's like crashing someone's new Tesla and offering to pay for a car wash. I forwarded it to Ronnie, who replied, "The rich boyfriend probably said, 'Not my problem,' and now they're scrambling. Hold the line." I was about to reply when Dom, my business partner, pulled me aside at our shop. "I just got off the phone with someone claiming to be your ex's lawyer," he said, looking concerned. "They're saying they're going to file a restraining order against you for workplace harassment. Something about you stalking her at her job?" My blood ran cold. "That's completely false. I haven't been anywhere near her." Dom nodded. "I figured. But they're saying they have a witness who saw your work truck parked outside her pharmacy last week. They're threatening to contact our clients about having an unstable plumber on projects. I was in Denver last week for the plumbing convention. The whole crew saw me there." "Good. I've got your back on this, but document everything with these people. They're playing dirty." That night, I met Ronnie at our usual bar. I was beyond angry. "They're trying to destroy my reputation," I said, my voice shaking slightly. "False business complaints, fake stalking allegations. What the hell?" Ronnie set down his drink. "They're trying to make defending yourself more trouble than it's worth. Classic abuser tactic, DARVO. They know they're wrong, so they're trying to make you the villain. I just wanted what's mine. And that's exactly what you're going to get," Ronnie said firmly. "This just proves they know they'll lose in court. They wouldn't be fighting this dirty otherwise." I replied to Ms. Sanderson, "Your client's offer of $15,000 against a $78,346.27 debt is rejected. Ms. Wilson's current anxiety stems from her decision to renege on clearly established financial commitments, followed by her taunting message. Additionally, I'm aware of false complaints made to my business and fabricated stalking allegations. These constitute defamation and potential criminal false reporting. My terms haven't changed. Full amount, interest, 21 days. Otherwise, I'll file a civil claim and report all false allegations to appropriate authorities. Attaching proof of my Denver trip, including hotel receipts, convention badge photos, and multiple witnesses who could verify my whereabouts. Let them try to claim I was stalking her while physically in another state." A week before the 21-day deadline expired, I received an email from Jennifer. After further consideration, Ms. Wilson proposes a structured settlement of $45,000 to be paid over 6 years without interest. This represents a substantial portion of the claimed amount and offers a reasonable resolution to avoid protracted legal proceedings for both parties. From "it was a gift" to "here's $45,000. Progress, but still significantly short, no interest despite explicit promises, and a 6-year term was unacceptable. I consulted Patricia. Her assessment: they know they're in a weak position. The increment from $15,000 to $45,000 in 1 week tells me they're expecting to pay the full amount eventually. Stand firm. I replied to Ms. Sanderson, "The offer is insufficient. My position is non-negotiable. Full principal, $78,346.27. Standard interest, market rate, 36-month maximum repayment, acceleration clause for missed payments." These terms align with Ms. Wilson's own commitments. I've now documented multiple attempts to harm my business and reputation through false claims. Any further such actions will be addressed in court. You have 5 business days to accept these terms. 5 tense days. Complete silence. I prepared court filings with Patricia. We were ready to file the moment the deadline passed. At 4:52 p.m. on the final day, an email arrived. Following consultation with our client, we conditionally accept the core terms. Principal, $78,346.27. Interest, fixed 5% from graduation date. Repayment period, 36 months. Acceleration clause with 10-day cure period. Conditional upon confidentiality provisions. The fundamental demands were accepted. They knew they couldn't win. All the posturing, threats, and manipulations had failed. I replied, "The proposed terms are acceptable pending review of the draft agreement. Please forward documentation." A week later, I signed the final agreement. Megan had refused to be present for the signing, sending her lawyer instead. Fine by me. I had no desire to see her either. Tara informed me. Megan passed her pharmacy boards. Tony, the wealthy new man, was reportedly furious about the financial drama and had refused to get involved, making it clear her debts were her problem. Megan hadn't secured the prestigious hospital position she'd boasted about, instead taking a retail pharmacy job at a grocery store chain. The settlement would require approximately $2,350 monthly after taxes, on top of her own federal student loans and living expenses. Her parents and cousin? Suddenly unavailable for comment. No more threats about ending me or lectures about how I wasn't worthy of their daughter. Amazing how quickly they disappeared once the bluff was called. It's been 14 months. The settlement agreement is legally binding. $78,346.27 principal, 5% fixed interest, 36 months, $2,350 monthly payment. Megan has made every payment. 14 down, 22 to go, always exactly on the final day before default. My plumbing business has expanded to a second location. We expanded fast, added new vans, hired techs, and picked up a retiring firm's clients. I even took my first real vacation in 5 years. 2 weeks in Hawaii, completely off-grid. No emergency calls, no spreadsheets, just beaches and hiking trails. I've restored my retirement accounts, made some solid investments in rental properties, and even started a small side business handling commercial property maintenance contracts. Turns out I didn't need Megan's pharmacy salary to build a successful future. I just needed to stop bankrolling someone else's. What about Megan? According to Tara, Tony left her 3 months after the settlement was signed. His parting comment at a mutual friend's dinner party: "I'm not interested in subsidizing someone else's financial train wreck." So much for her meal ticket. Her career? Retail pharmacy at a suburban grocery chain? Overnight shifts and weekend rotations? Not the clinical hospital position with six-figure guaranteed advancement she'd planned on. Now she lives in a one-bedroom apartment with a roommate. Her parents, who once pretended to have connections despite barely making rent themselves, quietly cut ties once Tony bailed and the lawsuit landed. Then, just when I thought it was over, things took an unexpected turn. About 5 months into the payment plan, I noticed small things. A missed call at 2 a.m. from a blocked number. No voicemail. Then, another the next night. A week later, I found a coffee cup from our old favorite cafe, sitting on my car hood in the morning. Nothing else, just the cup. 2 days after that, a delivery of lilies showed up at my door with no card. When I called the florist, they confirmed a woman matching Megan's description had paid cash. I installed a doorbell cam. Caught her circling my building 3 nights straight, at 3 a.m., just walking around the parking lot, sometimes stopping to stare up at my unit. I showed Ronnie the videos. "This is getting into restraining order territory," he said, frowning. "She's losing it." Then the text started. From different unknown numbers, always late at night. "Do you think about us?" I made a mistake. "We should talk. You can't ignore me forever." I never responded. Just documented everything. Added each new number to my block list. Saved screenshots, and forwarded everything to Patricia. This wasn't just uncomfortable, it was escalating into something potentially messed up. 3 months ago, it escalated. Megan showed up at my condo building at 11 p.m. on a Friday. Security footage showed her pacing outside for 20 minutes before somehow convincing a resident to let her in. She was visibly agitated, hands shaking as she pounded on my door. Thankfully, my building has solid security cameras. I opened the door but stayed firmly in the doorway. "What are you doing here, Megan?" "We need to talk." Her eyes were red. "This payment plan is destroying me. I can't live like this anymore." That sounds like exactly what a loan repayment is supposed to be. Your responsibility. "I'm begging you," she started crying. "Lower the payments. Extend the term. Something. Anything." For a split second, I almost felt a twinge of sympathy. Then I remembered the business complaint, the fake stalking allegations, the attempt to destroy my reputation. "The agreement stands," I said. "Leave or I'll call the police." Her expression shifted instantly. "You think you're so smart," she hissed, trying to push past me into my apartment. "You think you've won?" I blocked the doorway. "Leave now, Megan. I'll tell everyone you abused me. I'll say you threatened me into signing that agreement. I'll go to your clients and tell them you're stalking me. Who do you think they'll believe? The pretty pharmacist or the dirty plumber?" And there it was, the mask completely off, revealing the same person who sent that text. "Every word of this conversation is being recorded," I said quietly, "by building security and by me. I've documented every drive-by, every anonymous text, every flower delivery. You're not the victim here, Megan. She blinked, momentarily thrown off balance. You said I was pathetic for investing in you, I continued, my voice perfectly level. Turns out I was just early to the liquidation. She tried accessing my unit 3 more times that weekend. Security caught all of it. The following Tuesday, she appeared at my workplace, creating a scene in the shop until my employees removed her. She was ranting about how I'd ruined her life and stolen her future. My office manager, Angela, recorded the whole thing on her phone while Dom called the police. By the time they arrived, she'd already left, but the damage was done. My employees were shaken. I had to call an emergency meeting to explain the situation, minus the embarrassing personal details. Just that my ex owed me money, was refusing to pay, and was now harassing me. They were supportive, but I could see the concern in their faces. This wasn't just affecting me anymore. It was affecting my business and my team. Ronnie didn't mince words. Get a restraining order yesterday. This isn't about money anymore. She's unhinged. Patricia helped me file for a temporary restraining order, which was granted based on the security footage, workplace incident, and threatening text messages Megan had been sending. You'll regret this. And I know where you sleep. 2 weeks later, the judge made it permanent for 1 year, citing Megan's concerning pattern of escalation and inability to respect boundaries. The restraining order includes provisions that our only communication must be through our respective attorneys regarding the settlement payments. She's barred from coming within 500 feet of my home, workplace, or person. Any violation would result in potential criminal charges. The day after the restraining order was granted, her father called me again. This time, his tone completely different. I just want to understand what's happening with my daughter, he said, sounding tired and old. The restraining order? Is it really necessary? Mr. Wilson. She showed up at my home at 11 p.m., tried to force her way inside, and threatened to falsely accuse me of abuse. Then she came to my business and created a scene that frightened my employees. What would you have done? Long silence. I don't know what's happened to her. She's not the person we raised. I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. She's an adult who made choices. Now she's facing the consequences. I'm sorry it's affecting your family, but my priority has to be protecting myself and my business. I understand, he said quietly. For what it's worth, I'm sorry about all this. Too little, too late, but I appreciated the gesture. Life has actually improved dramatically since all this went down. I'm dating Lauren, a structural engineer I met through a client. She knows the outline of what happened. Her take? She sounds like a complete narcissist. You dodged artillery fire, not just a bullet. Thai food tonight? Simple. Authentic. Perfect. Lauren doesn't play games or send cryptic texts. She doesn't expect me to finance her life or solve all her problems. She's professionally successful, emotionally stable, and refreshingly direct. Ronnie's assessment was less diplomatic. You paid $78,000 to discover she was garbage before you married her. Cheapest divorce you'll never have. He's right. That money was ultimately the price of my freedom. Had I married Megan, the financial damage would have been far worse. Not to mention the emotional toll of being tied to someone who viewed me as nothing more than a stepping stone. About a month ago, I adopted a rescue dog, a 3-year-old German Shepherd mix named Rex. He's been loyal and protective with me. We go running every morning, and he sleeps by my bedroom door at night. Best decision I've made in years. Rex was a police K-9 washout, too friendly for the job, according to his former handler. But his training makes him an excellent companion. He's disciplined, responsive, and has an uncanny ability to read people. The money from Megan's payments goes straight into an investment account. I'm actually planning to use it as seed funding for expanding the plumbing business with Dom next year. Turning her debt into my future success feels like poetic justice. There's something deeply satisfying about using the money that was supposed to fund her future to build mine instead. The most surprising development came from Megan's father. He approached me at a local coffee shop last week, looking much older than I remembered. I owe you an apology, he said quietly. We believed what Megan told us about you. She's not well. She's seeing a therapist, I mean. It's long overdue. He handed me his card. If you ever need anything, please call. And thank you for not pressing charges over the stalking. You could have made things much worse for her. I didn't tell him that the restraining order was already the merciful option, that I had enough evidence for criminal charges of harassment, stalking, and false reporting, that his daughter was lucky I'd chosen the least destructive path available. I just nodded and told him I hope she gets the help she needs. And I meant it. Not for her sake, but for anyone else who might cross her path in the future. As I left the coffee shop, I realized I no longer felt angry when I thought about Megan. Just a vague sense of pity mixed with relief that she was no longer my problem. The money was coming in according to the agreement, And that was all that mattered. Advice for anyone in a similar situation. Document absolutely everything. Save texts. Keep receipts. Maintain witnesses. And when someone shows you who they really are, believe them the first time. Megan wanted me to enjoy my sad little life, lol. I am. Weekly hikes with Rex, Thai dates with Lauren, and monthly bank transfers from my ex. Life's good. So, that's what went down. Peace out, Reddit. Writing this was therapeutic as hell. Story 6. My wife said, "We should try a sexless marriage." I laughed at first thinking it was absurd. That's until things spiraled, so I took action. Before I get into this absolute clusterfuck, let me give y'all some background. I'm 32 male, been married to Sarah, 29 female, for 6 years, together for 9. Met in college when I was finishing my engineering degree. I'm not some perfect dude. I work too much, sometimes forget important dates, and I've been known to leave my socks everywhere. But I've always been loyal, supportive, and honestly thought we had a pretty damn good thing going. I grew up in a small town in the Midwest, parents still married after 35 years. Traditional upbringing, worked my ass off to get a good job, bought a house in the suburbs, the whole American dream package. Sarah was studying psychology when we met, smart as hell, ambitious, and honestly way out of my league looks-wise. She had this long brown hair, green eyes that would change color depending on what she wore, and a laugh that could light up a room. We hit it off immediately at this campus volunteering event. We were both helping build houses for Habitat for Humanity. I asked her out for coffee after, and the rest is history. Back then, our connection was insane, both emotionally and physically. Like, we'd stay up all night just talking or, not talking. We got married 3 years later in a small ceremony with just close friends and family. Bought our house a year after that. Everything was going according to plan. I was climbing the ladder at my engineering firm, and she was building her own practice as a therapist, specializing in family counseling. The irony of that isn't lost on me now. Our routine was comfortable. Weekday mornings, we'd have coffee together before work. Weekends, we'd tackle home projects or binge Netflix shows. We had date nights every other Friday. We talk about having kids eventually, but we're enjoying our time as just us. The physical side was always good. Not like honeymoon phase crazy, but regular and satisfying. Or so I thought. So there I was on a random Tuesday night, sprawled on our couch, scrolling through my phone, half watching some garbage sitcom rerun while I waited for my game to update. Sarah walks in with that look. You know the one. Part determination, part, I've been practicing this conversation in my head for days. I muted the TV and sat up. We need to talk, she said, arms crossed. Fuck. Those 4 words are never followed by, I bought you PlayStation 5 games, or let's order pizza. What's up? I asked, trying to remember if I'd forgotten an anniversary or something. She stood there for a second, like she was psyching herself up, then just dropped it. I think we should try a sexless marriage. I actually laughed, not because it was funny, but because I was 100% sure she was joking. What is this? Some kind of divorce prelude? I said with an awkward chuckle. Her face didn't change. If anything, it hardened. I'm completely serious, Mark. I've been thinking about this a lot, and I believe it could make our relationship stronger. Sex isn't everything, and I feel like it's holding us back from connecting on a deeper level. My brain basically short-circuited. Who the fuck was this standing in my living room? This wasn't the woman who used to send me dirty texts during work meetings. This wasn't the Sarah who once surprised me wearing nothing but whipped cream on my birthday. My stomach felt like I'd swallowed a brick as I tried to process what was happening. Wait, I stammered. Where is this coming from? Are you unhappy? Did I do something wrong? She sighed dramatically, like my questions were so predictable they bored her. No, it's not about that. I've been reading a lot, listening to podcasts, watching these incredible women online who talk about reclaiming their identities, about how intimacy can sometimes be a crutch for deeper issues in a relationship. Podcasts? Influencers? So what? You listened to a couple of episodes of some random show and decided our marriage is broken? I wasn't trying to sound defensive, but come on. That's not what I'm saying, she shot back. I'm saying we could try something new, something that challenges us to grow. No sex, I repeated, more to myself than to her. In what universe does that strengthen a marriage? Her tone turned defensive. You're being narrow-minded. It's not about never having sex again. It's about taking it off the table for a while and focusing on us as individuals, as partners. Partners. What kind of partnership doesn't include intimacy? It was like she was speaking a foreign language and I couldn't find a translator. You can't just spring this on me like it's some harmless experiment. We're not a couple of college kids trying out a weird new diet. This is our marriage we're talking about. She sat down across from me, her posture calm, but her eyes blazing. Exactly. It's our marriage. And I'm saying we need to think about what's truly important. This isn't about rejecting you or punishing you. It's about figuring out who we are without relying on physical connection as a crutch. Crutch? That word hit me harder than it should have. I didn't see our intimacy as a crutch. I saw it as love, as connection, as the glue that held us together when life got messy. Without it, what were we? Roommates? Splitting the bills and occasionally sharing meals? Do you even hear yourself? I couldn't hold it in any longer. Because from where I'm sitting, this sounds insane. Her face fell, but she quickly masked it with a veneer of righteousness. You're not even willing to consider it? She said softly, almost like she pitied me. No, I'm not, I fired back. Because what you're asking for, it's not a marriage. At least not one I signed up for. We sat there in silence. The tension so thick you could have sliced it with a knife. She looked at me like she was waiting for some grand epiphany to strike, like I'd suddenly see the brilliance of her plan and fall at her feet in gratitude. But all I could feel was confusion, frustration, and an overwhelming sense of betrayal. That was the moment I realized this wasn't just about sex. This was about something bigger, something that had been brewing beneath the surface of our relationship for who knows how long, and I had no idea how to fix it. The days following that conversation were surreal as fuck. I kept waiting for things to go back to normal, for her to sit down, laugh it off, and admit the whole thing was just a bad idea she'd gotten from some overhyped influencer. But that didn't happen. Instead, it felt like I was living with a stranger. At first, it was subtle. She started spending every waking minute on her phone, always with earbuds in, always intensely focused on whatever she was watching or reading. I'd catch snippets of motivational speeches or self-help mantras if I walked past her. The value of a woman doesn't lie in her ability to please a man, I heard one day as I came into the kitchen. She quickly paused it, like a teenager hiding something from their parents. Interesting stuff? I asked, trying to sound casual. She just shrugged. Just some things I've been thinking about. That fucking shrug, man. Sarah used to talk my ear off about everything. Her day, something she read, random thoughts at 3 a.m. Now she was giving me one-word answers and shrugs like a teenager. Then her appearance changed. Sarah always had a casual style. Jeans, hoodies, t-shirts. Suddenly she's dressing like she's got corporate board meetings every day. Blazers, slacks, button-up shirts. Even her hair changed. She chopped off her long brown hair that I loved into some kind of severe bob with bangs. When I first saw it, I literally did a double take. 6 years of marriage, and she never once mentioned wanting short hair. You look different, I said one morning as she put on lipstick, on a Saturday, when we had no plans. Thanks, she replied without looking at me. Are you going somewhere? I asked. No, she said. And that was it. End of conversation. Our home routine changed too. She stopped cooking with me, something we used to enjoy doing together on weekends. She stopped suggesting movies for our Friday night watch parties. She even rearranged her side of the closet, getting rid of all the comfy clothes she used to wear around the house. Every day she seemed more distant. The woman who used to curl up next to me on the couch was now sitting ramrod straight in a separate chair, engrossed in her phone. If I tried to talk to her about work or friends or literally anything, she'd give me these short, disinterested responses. What really got to me were the buzzwords she started dropping into conversations. Suddenly, everything was about emotional labor, male entitlement, setting boundaries, and feminine energy, terms I'd never heard her use in all our years together. I'm focusing on finding myself, she said one evening, when I tried to bring up what was happening between us. Finding yourself? What does that even mean? You're right here. I couldn't hide my frustration. You wouldn't understand, she replied, her voice flat. That line cut deeper than it should have. Was I suddenly too dense to grasp what was going on in my own marriage? We used to be able to talk about anything. Now I was being dismissed like some clueless idiot. I tried to maintain some normalcy. I kept inviting her to watch shows with me, to go for walks, to visit our favorite restaurants. She'd either decline outright or agree, but then spend the entire time distracted by her phone. Sex was completely off the table, of course. If I even touched her casually, a hand on her shoulder or a kiss on the cheek, she'd stiffen or subtly move away. The Sarah I knew, the woman I fell in love with, seemed to be vanishing by the day, and in her place was this cold, detached stranger who seemed annoyed by my very existence. About 2 weeks after the initial sexless marriage bomb, Sarah marched into the living room while I was watching basketball. Without saying anything, she sat down and thrust her phone in my face. Look at this, she demanded, pointing to an Instagram post. It was from some account called Patriarchy Smashers, with about 200,000 followers. The profile was full of quotes about female liberation and breaking the chains of male expectations. The post she showed me was a long rant about how sexual relationships with men were tools of oppression and how women could reclaim their power by rejecting the male gaze and physical demands. "What do you think?" she asked, staring at me like I was about to be tested. I took a moment to actually read the post. It was basically claiming that any woman in a traditional relationship was being subjugated, that sexual intimacy with men was inherently oppressive, and that true liberation came from disconnecting from male validation. The comments were full of women praising these insights and sharing how they were setting boundaries with the men in their lives. "What do I think? I think this is absolute bullshit," I said honestly. "This person doesn't know us or our relationship. How could some random Instagram feminist know what's best for our marriage?" Her eyes narrowed. "It's not about her specifically," she said with this condescending tone I'd never heard from her before. "It's about the concept. Don't you think there's truth in how society conditions women to believe their worth is tied to sexual desirability? Sure, in theory, but that's not our relationship. I've never treated you like that. You're seriously going to let some hashtag activist influence our marriage?" She sighed dramatically. "This is exactly what I expected. You're completely closed off to new perspectives that challenge your male privilege." Male privilege? In the 9 years we'd been together, Sarah had never once used phrases like that. Now suddenly I'm the patriarchy? New perspectives? Or brainwashing? "Because this doesn't sound like you at all," I said, trying to stay calm. She stood up abruptly. "You wouldn't understand? Your entire life experience is filtered through male entitlement." Then she walked out, leaving me sitting there wondering what the fuck happened to my wife. That night I lay in bed next to this stranger, staring at the ceiling, trying to pinpoint when everything changed. She was right there, inches away but somehow miles apart. The woman I'd built a life with, planned a future with, seemed to have been replaced by some radicalized version I didn't recognize. The next day, I came home from work to find her organizing some kind of women's circle in our living room. 5 women I'd never met were sitting in a circle on our floor, burning sage, which I'm allergic to, by the way, and taking turns talking about dismantling internalized misogyny or some shit. Sarah barely acknowledged me as I walked in. "We'll be done in a couple of hours," she said dismissively, like I was some delivery guy interrupting their important ceremony. I grabbed my laptop and retreated to our bedroom, listening to these strangers in my living room talk about how men were basically the source of all evil in the world. One of them was going on about how she'd freed herself from the male gaze by cutting off her husband's physical access to her body. The others murmured their approval and validation. Was this what Sarah was planning? Complete physical estrangement? I felt sick to my stomach. This wasn't a rough patch or a communication issue. This was my wife being systematically turned against our relationship by some radical ideology. After tossing and turning all night, a disturbing thought crept into my mind. What if there's someone else? I fucking hated myself for thinking it, but it made a weird kind of sense. The sudden emotional distance, the appearance changes, the secretive behavior with her phone. People don't just wake up one day and decide to drastically change their marriage unless something else is going on. While she was in the shower the next morning, I did something I'd never done before. I tried to check her phone. It was locked, of course, and the passcode had been changed. We used to know each other's passcodes, not because we snooped, but because we had nothing to hide. When did that change? Later that day, I started paying closer attention to her behavior. She was constantly glued to her phone, angling the screen away when I walked by. She'd disappear into our home office for hours, claiming she was journaling or participating in women's empowerment workshops. Every notification made her jump to check her phone. If I walked into a room while she was on it, she'd quickly switch apps or turn the screen off. Classic guilty behavior, right? One night, I pretended to be asleep when she got into bed. She immediately reached for her phone and started typing away, occasionally smiling at whatever response she was getting. Who the hell was she texting at midnight? And why did it make her smile when nothing I'd done in weeks had earned more than a cold stare? "Who are you always texting?" I asked the next evening, as she furiously typed on her phone. She looked up, startled, then composed herself. "Just some women from my feminist collective. We're discussing the systemic oppression inherent in traditional marriage dynamics." "Your feminist collective? Since when are you in a collective? Why does it matter to you?" she snapped. "Are you trying to control who I talk to now?" That's textbook patriarchal behavior. "It matters because you're my wife, and you've been acting like I'm your enemy for weeks now. Do these strangers know more about our marriage than I do? Maybe they understand me better than you do," she said coldly. then got up and left the room. That comment felt like a slap in the face. 9 years together, and suddenly some online collective understood her better than me? I started noticing other changes too. She'd put her phone face down whenever I was nearby. She'd take calls in another room, speaking in hushed tones. She changed all her passwords, email, social media, even our shared Amazon account. One afternoon, I came home early from work and heard her laughing in her office. A genuine, joyful laugh I hadn't heard directed at me in weeks. When I knocked and opened the door, she quickly ended her video call and switched to a blank document on her screen. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt, I said, watching her face carefully. It's fine, just wrapping up, she replied, not meeting my eyes. Who were you talking to? Sounded like you were having fun. Just the collective. We were discussing dismantling beauty standards. Yeah, dismantling beauty standards. Real hilarious topic. The paranoia began eating away at me. Every little thing felt like evidence. The phone glued to her hand, the locked screens, the vague answers, the late-night texting, the secret calls, the appearance changes. My mind was creating worst-case scenarios on loop. Was she emotionally cheating? Physically cheating? Being manipulated by some kind of cult? I couldn't concentrate at work. I was losing sleep. I kept replaying our history, trying to figure out if I'd missed warning signs. Had she been unhappy for a long time? Was there someone specific who'd caught her attention? Or was this truly just some bizarre ideological conversion? My suspicion turned into full-blown paranoia. Every notification on her phone, every secretive smile as she typed, every late-night workshop. My mind was creating worst-case scenarios on loop. One night she fell asleep early, and her laptop was still open on the kitchen table. I knew it was wrong, but I was desperate to understand what was happening. I expected to find her browser history cleared, but instead I hit the jackpot. She'd forgotten to log out of her email. Most of it was newsletters from these feminist accounts and updates from various empowerment forums. But then I saw a folder labeled Personal with dozens of emails from someone named Alex. I clicked on one from 2 weeks ago. Sarah, our conversation last night was incredible. I've never connected with anyone on such a deep level. You're truly awakening to your authentic power, and it's beautiful to witness. The way you described your situation at home, it's so common. Men simply cannot understand the emotional labor women perform daily in heteronormative relationships. You deserve so much more than what you've settled for. I can't wait for our call tomorrow. Alex, another, more recent. I'm so proud of you for setting boundaries. That's a huge step. Remember, you don't owe him physical intimacy. Your body is yours alone. These feelings of guilt are just your conditioning. Break free from that. I'm here for you whenever you need to talk. Same time tonight? Alex. Who the fuck was Alex? Was it a man? A woman? It wasn't clear from the emails, but whoever it was, they were clearly encouraging Sarah to blow up our marriage. I kept reading and found an email from 3 days ago. Sarah, the more you tell me about him, the more I see the classic signs of emotional manipulation. He's trying to make you feel guilty for your personal growth. That's not love. It's control. You deserve space to explore who you are outside of his expectations. I'm here to support you every step of the way. Alex, I was absolutely livid. This person had never met me, knew nothing about our relationship, and was painting me as some kind of abusive monster? And Sarah was just accepting it, feeding this stranger details about our private life? I scrolled through more emails and found a meditation group Sarah had apparently joined, led by this Alex person. There were Zoom links for nightly sessions and references to private calls they'd been having. As I dug deeper, I found donation receipts. Sarah had sent money to this authentic feminine collective. $200 here, $350 there, adding up to over $3,000 from our joint account over the past month. What the actual fuck? We always consulted each other before making any purchase over $500, and here she was sending thousands to some online group? I also found a PDF titled Liberation Guide that outlined a 12-step process for freeing yourself from patriarchal relationship structures. Step 1 was recognize your conditioning. Step 2 was establish physical boundaries, including suggestions for creating a sexless relationship. Step 6 was divest from male approval, with tips on changing your appearance to please yourself rather than men. It was like a fucking cult handbook. Everything suddenly made sense. The personality change, the new vocabulary, the coldness, the appearance changes, the women's circles, the secrecy. Sarah was being manipulated by whatever this group was, and this Alex person was completely messing with her head. I snapped a few photos of the most damning emails with my phone, including the donation receipts. then carefully closed the laptop exactly as I'd found it. I needed time to process this and figure out my next move. I didn't confront her immediately. Part of me was still processing what I'd found, and part of me wanted to see how far this would go. Over the next few days, I noticed she was attending these meditation sessions every night, always with her door closed and locked. I did some research on this authentic feminine collective. Their website was full of vague empowerment language and testimonials from women who had transformed their lives through the program. The founder, Alexandra Reeves, Alex presumably, described herself as a spiritual guide and feminist awakener who had liberated herself from patriarchal bondage after leaving her husband of 15 years. The site offered different membership tiers, from a basic $49 a month for access to group sessions up to a $499 a month transformation package that included private coaching. There was also a donate button for supporting the collective's mission. It had all the hallmarks of a sophisticated scam targeting vulnerable women. The breaking point came after dinner one night. I'd cooked, as I did most nights now, and she'd barely touched her food, too busy checking the time every few minutes. "I need to go," she said, standing up and leaving her plate. "I have an important session at 8. "Sure," I said, my tone flat. "You go lock yourself in the office with your new best friend Alex while I clean up." Again, she froze, then slowly turned to face me. "What did you just say?" I put down my fork and met her gaze. "You heard me. Alex. Your guru or whatever who's been filling your head with all this bullshit about me being some kind of oppressive monster." Her face went white, then flushed red. "You went through my emails? How dare you invade my privacy like that?" "Privacy? Since when do we have secrets in this marriage? You've been talking to some stranger about our personal life for weeks, letting them convince you I'm some kind of villain, and I'm the bad guy for finding out. You had no right," she shouted, hands shaking. "This is exactly why I need space from you. You're controlling and possessive." I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Controlling? I've been watching my wife turn into a complete stranger, spouting phrases she never used before, treating me like an enemy, and apparently sharing every detail of our relationship with some random collective online. And I'm supposed to just sit back and be cool with it? Alex understands what I'm going through. The collective supports my journey of self-discovery without judgment. They see me as a complete person, not just as an object for male gratification." "Object? Are you fucking kidding me? 9 years together, and you think that's how I see you? I've supported every ambition you've ever had. I encouraged you to get your master's degree, to start your own practice. When have I ever treated you like an object? You just don't get it," she said, with this infuriating condescension. "Your male perspective blinds you to the subtle ways you exert control. And Alex's perspective is so much more enlightened, I guess? This person who's never met me, never seen us together, knows more about our relationship than I do? Alex is helping me find my authentic self. Your authentic self was just fine before this cult got its hooks in you." Her eyes narrowed dangerously. "It's not a cult. It's a supportive community of like-minded individuals who understand the female experience. A supportive community that encourages you to blow up your marriage? That tells you your husband is manipulative and controlling based on absolutely nothing? That has you changing everything about yourself? Sounds like the textbook definition of a cult to me. You're just threatened because I'm no longer centering my life around your needs and desires." "Centering your life? When have I ever asked you to do that? You're the one who changed overnight. You're the one who decided our marriage should suddenly be sexless. You're the one spending every waking moment getting brainwashed by strangers online." The argument escalated into the worst fight of our marriage. She called me toxic, controlling, emblematic of patriarchal entitlement. I called her brainwashed, selfish, and unrecognizable. Then I brought up the money. "And by the way, I know about the $3,000 you've given them from our joint account." That stopped her cold. "How did you—" "I saw the receipts in your email. You've been sending hundreds of dollars to these people without even mentioning it to me. How is that okay? We always talk about big purchases, but suddenly you're funneling thousands to some online guru without a word." "It's an investment in my growth," she said, but she had the decency to look slightly embarrassed. "It's a fucking scam, Sarah. These people are taking advantage of you. They're isolating you from your support system. That's what cults do. They convince you that everyone who questions them is your enemy. They get you to change your appearance, your language, your relationships, and then they take your money." "You don't understand what this means to me," she insisted, but I could see a flicker of doubt in her eyes for the first time. At one point, I finally asked the question that had been burning in my mind. "Are you sleeping with Alex?" She looked at me like I'd slapped her. "How dare you? That just shows how little you think of me, that you immediately assume I'm cheating." What am I supposed to think? You suddenly want a sexless marriage. You're constantly hiding your phone. You're having private sessions with some guru who's telling you your husband is the enemy. Connect the dots for me, Sarah. I would never cheat on you. The fact that you'd even suggest it just proves you don't know me at all. I don't know you anymore because you're not the same person. The Sarah I married wouldn't join some online cult and let them dictate our relationship. She stormed off to the office, slamming the door behind her. I heard her lock it, and minutes later, the muffled sound of her talking to someone, presumably her precious Alex. I sat in our kitchen, surrounded by the ruins of the dinner I'd made, wondering how the hell we'd gotten here. Something had to give. We couldn't keep living like this. After that blowout, we barely spoke for days. I tried to process everything, weighing my options. I could continue fighting for a marriage with someone who clearly didn't want the same thing anymore, or I could take control of my own life. I chose the latter. Without telling Sarah, I contacted a lawyer and learned everything I needed to know about protecting myself. Then I made an appointment with a financial advisor and began quietly separating our finances. I opened a new bank account, transferred my portion of our savings, and made sure my paycheck would go to the new account. I documented everything: the changes in her behavior, the emails from Alex, the money she'd sent to the collective. I even recorded a couple of our arguments where she was spouting cult-like language, just in case. Next, I called my buddy Ryan, who owns a real estate company. Within a week, he found me a sweet apartment downtown. Modern, great views, walking distance to shops and restaurants. I signed the lease immediately. All the while, Sarah continued with her sessions and barely acknowledged my existence. Fine by me. It gave me time to execute my plan. I made sure all my important documents were secure: birth certificate, passport, financial records. I contacted all our shared accounts, utilities, insurance, streaming services, and either removed my name or created new accounts for myself. On a Friday when Sarah was at work, I packed up everything that mattered to me: clothes, personal items, gaming setup, family heirlooms. I left all the furniture, most of which I had paid for, and anything we'd bought together. I wasn't interested in fighting over material things. The last thing I did was leave an envelope on the kitchen counter. Inside was a note that read, "Sarah, you wanted a sexless marriage. I'm giving you one better, a husbandless marriage. I've moved out and separated our finances. You can have the house for now. I've paid the mortgage through next month to give you time to figure things out. My lawyer will contact you about next steps. Enjoy your authentic self, Mark." I also left printouts of all the emails between her and Alex, the donation receipts, and screenshots of the Liberation Guide steps, just so she knew exactly why I was leaving. Then I walked out, drove to my new apartment, and started my new life. My first weekend of freedom was surreal. I set up my new place, went grocery shopping without having to check if anyone wanted anything specific, and slept in as late as I wanted. I reconnected with friends I hadn't seen much, because Sarah had gradually isolated me from them, with complaints about their toxic masculinity, or whatever. I joined a local gym and signed up for pickup basketball on Sundays, something I'd always enjoyed, but had given up because Sarah needed me home for her self-care Sundays. For 3 days, absolute silence. Then the tsunami hit. First came the texts: "Where are you? We need to talk. You can't just leave like this. Please call me." I didn't respond. Then the calls started. Dozens of them, which I sent straight to voicemail. Her messages became increasingly desperate. "Mark, please, this is a mistake. I never meant for this to happen. We can work this out." Still, I maintained radio silence. She showed up at my office on day 4, but I'd already told the receptionist not to let her in. She sent emails, left voicemails, even contacted mutual friends trying to reach me. On day 5, my phone rang with an unfamiliar number. Thinking it might be my lawyer, I answered. "Hello, is this Mark?" A smooth, condescending voice asked. "Who's asking?" I replied. "This is Alex from the Authentic Feminine Collective. I think we should talk." I nearly laughed out loud. "There is absolutely nothing you and I need to discuss. I understand you're upset, but Sarah is devastated. She's had a realization about how important you are to her." "Oh, has she? That's fascinating. Tell me, Alex, how much money has Sarah donated to your collective over the past month?" Silence. "That's what I thought. Listen carefully. Stay the fuck away from my wife and stop filling her head with your manipulative bullshit. If you contact me again, I'll be filing a harassment report. We clear?" I hung up before they could respond. 2 weeks passed. I settled into my new place, reconnected with friends I hadn't seen in ages, and started hitting the gym daily. I was sleeping better, eating better, and feeling more like myself than I had in months. My lawyer informed me that Sarah had been served with separation papers. She hadn't contested anything yet, which surprised me. I expected her to fight, to drag things out, to make demands. Then Sarah showed up at my office. She looked terrible. Eyes puffy, hair unwashed, wearing an old sweatshirt instead of her new, empowered woman wardrobe. My receptionist told me she'd been waiting in the lobby for 3 hours, refusing to leave. Against my better judgment, I agreed to 5 minutes. "You look good," she said quietly as she sat across from me. "Thanks. What do you want, Sarah?" "I made a horrible mistake," she whispered, tears welling up. "I got caught up in something I didn't understand. Alex, the group. They're not what I thought." "And what were they?" She looked down. "After you left, I did some research. They target women in stable relationships, make them doubt everything, isolate them from their partners, then ask for money. I've given them almost $5,000 from our joint account." I leaned back in my chair. "That's unfortunate. Mark, please, I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened to me. I was feeling, I don't know, bored, restless, and then I found these videos online that seemed to speak to me, and before I knew it, I was in so deep." Her voice broke. "So what do you want from me now?" I asked, keeping my voice neutral. "I want to come home," she sobbed. "I miss you. I miss us. I've been seeing a real therapist, not some online guru, and she's helping me understand how I got manipulated. I'll pay back every cent I gave them. I'll delete all my accounts. I'll do whatever it takes." "And the sexless marriage idea?" She looked mortified. "That was never really what I wanted. They convinced me that physical intimacy was a form of submission to patriarchal expectations." God, it sounds so ridiculous saying it out loud. "And the women's circles? The radical feminist rhetoric? The complete personality transplant? I got swept up in it," she admitted. "It's like they knew exactly what to say to make me feel special, enlightened, like I was part of something important. They isolated me bit by bit, made me doubt everything I knew. Classic cult tactics, but I couldn't see it until you left." I checked my watch. "Your 5 minutes are up, Sarah." "Please," she begged, reaching for my hand across the desk. "I love you. I made a terrible mistake. I'll do anything to fix this." I pulled my hand away. "The thing is, Sarah, I'm actually happier now. These past few weeks have been enlightening. I've realized I deserve someone who won't throw away 9 years based on some Instagram cult's advice. Someone who trusts me enough to talk about problems instead of ambushing me with ultimatums. Someone who values my feelings as much as their own. That's me," she insisted. "The real me, not the brainwashed version. Please, Mark, give me another chance." "You know what really hurts?" I said, leaning forward. "It's not the sexless marriage proposal. It's not even the money you sent them. It's that you believed some stranger on the internet over your husband of 6 years. It's that you were so quick to see me as the enemy, to twist everything I've ever done into some form of oppression. How do we come back from that?" Tears streamed down her face. "I don't know," she whispered, "but I want to try. I'll do anything." I stood up. "I'll think about it. That's all I can offer right now." As I walked her out, she turned to me with puffy, desperate eyes. "Can I call you? Maybe we could have dinner next week? Just to talk?" "I'll call you," I said firmly. "Maybe, but don't sit around waiting." I watched her walk away, shoulders slumped, completely different from the cold, empowered feminist who had demanded a sexless marriage just a month before. The truth is, I don't know if I'll call her. Part of me still loves the woman I married, but I'm not sure she exists anymore. The other part is enjoying my freedom and the attention I've been getting as a newly single guy with his shit together. 3 days later, I received an unexpected email. It was from Alex, but not to me. It was a mass email sent to everyone in the collective, and Sarah had forwarded it to me. It read, "Beloved sisters, it is with a heavy heart that I must announce the Authentic Feminine Collective will be taking a brief hiatus while I attend to some personal matters. Some individuals have made baseless accusations about our sacred work, and I must focus my energy on addressing these attacks. Your monthly subscriptions will remain active to secure your place when we return. Stay strong in your authenticity. Alex." Sarah had added a note. "FYI, she's running because 3 other women and I have reported her to the authorities for fraud. Thought you'd want to know." I had to admit, I was impressed. The old Sarah was showing signs of life, taking action, fighting back against someone who had wronged her. It was the first glimpse of the woman I'd fallen in love with that I'd seen in months. That evening, my doorbell rang. It was Sarah again, but different this time. She looked more put together. Her hair was back to its natural style. The severe makeup was gone, and she was wearing jeans and a t-shirt like she used to. "I didn't come to beg," she said immediately. "I just wanted to drop this off." She handed me an envelope. Inside was a check for $5,000, the full amount she'd given to the collective, plus extra. I sold my designer clothes and some jewelry to cover it, she explained. I know it doesn't fix anything, but it's a start. Thank you, I said, genuinely surprised. You didn't have to do that. Yes, I did, she replied. And there's something else. She handed me a folder containing printouts of emails she'd sent to other women in the collective, warning them about Alex's manipulation tactics. She'd also included screenshots of a support group she'd started for women who had been similarly manipulated. I'm trying to help others who got sucked in, she said. It's the only way I can make something positive out of this mess. I nodded, impressed despite myself. That's actually really great, Sarah. I'm not asking for anything, she said quickly. I just thought you should know I'm working on myself. For real this time, not some fake, authentic self bullshit. As she turned to leave, I found myself saying, maybe we could get coffee sometime, just to talk. She looked back, a glimmer of hope in her eyes. I'd like that. I still don't know what's going to happen with us. Maybe we'll try again. Maybe we won't. But for the first time in months, I feel like I'm talking to the real Sarah again, not some cult-programmed robot. And right now, I'm in control of my life, my choices, and my future. Whatever happens next will be on my terms. Either way, I'm calling the shots now. And it feels damn good.